Chapter 1691. Su-yi. Han Wulong and Gyue looked in the direction of Duanmu Xiaoman and saw Su-yi lying in a pool of blood, unconscious. Both of them turned pale with fright. Su-yi. With a stride forward, Han Wulong rushed into the pit with golden light. Immediately, a bloody aura rushed into Han Wulong's soul, and his body emitted a boundless golden aura. Boom! In a split second, the smell of blood in the air collapsed. Han Wulong raised his eyebrows and placed his hand on Su-yi's forehead. His face gradually turned gloomy. Gyue also felt the danger and terror of this place. Faintly, an ancient and evil aura lingered in the air. If he stayed any longer, his soul would be damaged. Sect Master Han, how is Su Brat? Han Wulong carried Su-yi on his shoulder and said, his situation is not optimistic. He needs to be treated quickly. His meridians are broken, and his bones and flesh are already considered minor injuries. The injuries to his vital energy and soul are the most serious. Without any miraculous medicine, this brat will not be able to survive. Not a single moment can be wasted. Hearing this, Gyue's pupils shrank, and a trace of panic appeared on his aged face. Han Wulong, bring Su-yi to my residence in the back mountain. I will treat his injuries. Gyue turned around and nodded heavily at Duanmu Xiaoman. Hearing Han Wulong's anxious voice, he immediately said, the Tianfeng competition is about to begin. The Heavenly Wind ranking tournament is just around the corner. This brat's identity is no small matter, and he is closely related to me. My limitless sect also has countless doctors, and they can still treat Su-yi. I hope Sect Master Duanmu can grant my request. Gyue took a step forward and said, no. Sect Master Han. Su-yi is in trouble because of my Heavenly Command Palace, so he should be treated by my Heavenly Command Palace. Otherwise, what will others say about my Heavenly Command Palace? Duanmu Xiaoman, who was standing on top of the ravine, pretended to be calm. A vast soul pressure once again spread out from her body. She coldly snorted. She snorted and said softly, Han Wulong, if your limitless sect wants to snatch someone from my Heavenly Command Palace, go ahead and try. If I don't see Su-yi in the deity's palace, your limitless sect will be buried with him. Her killing intent, like a hurricane, crushed Han Wulong's body, and his body trembled. As soon as she finished speaking, Duanmu said to Gyue, Gyue, do you have the space-rending jade with you? Time is tight, follow me back to the back mountain. Gyue solemnly handed over the small space-rending jade, turned around and looked at Han Wulong. He shook his head, indicating for him to stop talking, and said solemnly in a low voice, Sect Master Han, please forgive us. There are still many things we need to wait for Su-yi to wake up and give Heavenly Command Palace an answer. You are anxious, but this old man is also anxious. What happened between the two of them? Her yellow eyes flashed with a hint of surprise. On Linghua Peak, after Han Wulong came back, everyone kept asking about Su-yi's situation. Han Wulong gave a simple explanation and told them not to worry. Then, he ran to the back mountain every 2 hours. When he ran over again, 2 elder dukes were already guarding the rear peak, and no one was allowed to enter. Han Wulong, who had returned in embarrassment, felt even more uneasy. The elder dukes were personally guarding the rear peak. How could this be? Only the Taishang elder had come out of seclusion. The entire Yutian Palace didn't sleep for one night. Yutian River, including Arch K Lake, and all the palaces were brightly lit. The teaching elders, the elders, and all the disciples of Yutian Palace were busy. A large number of disciples were injured, which was a loss for Yutian Palace. Countless pills were transported out from Heavenly Pill House. Many elders also stayed up all night to heal their disciples. The only thing that people cared about was Su-yi and Duanmu Xiaoman. Rumor has it that Duanmu Xiaoman went straight to Yutian Palace after returning to the palace. Su-yi was also sent to the back mountain by Gyue. Many people were speculating about the relationship between Su-yi and Duanmu Xiaoman. What happened between Su-yi and Duanmu Xiaoman at the bottom of the lake? But one thing was certain. Su-yi had achieved his bet. Not only did he reach 20,000 meters, but he also came out alive. As for Su-yi's 4 firsts, everyone was looking forward to the Yutian Seoul competition's commendation ceremony. Late at night, the moon was bright in the sky. Countless stars intersected like a chessboard. Luowuya and Long Pashan were very busy. Many elders received a notice late at night that the next day's competition would be held as usual. On Linghua Peak, everyone was cheering. Han Wulong was also relieved. It seemed that Su-yi was safe. Chapter 1692. The first ray of sunlight broke through the clouds and sprinkled on the mountain ridge, bringing a long-awaited radiance to the gloomy hearts of the disciples of the imperial palace. The entire imperial heavenly palace had spent the previous night in a state of panic. This imperial heavenly soul competition was unprecedentedly dangerous. It was the same for the people of Linghua Peak. Since they received the notice late at night, none of them slept the entire night. They simply cultivated until dawn. Han Yuro opened the door, and the dazzling golden light embellished the entire courtyard with a golden color. She immediately muttered to herself, "Su-yi will be fine." At the same time, Li Shiran and Li Changchu opened the door and saw Han Yuro. They immediately squeezed out a smile on their tired faces. "You're all up." Han Wulong and Tian Ho had been waiting in the courtyard for a long time. It was unknown if they hadn't slept the entire night. "Father, did the notice last night mean that Su-yi is fine?" Han Wulong didn't comment. He knew what his daughter was thinking. At this moment, he was just like his daughter, even more than Han Yuro, hoping that Su-yi would be fine. "We'll know when we go take a look." In front of Zhongzhen Peak, the thin morning mist gradually sprinkled down. Han Wulong and the others walked through the mist and found their seat. Seeing that many people around him still looked tired, he knew that the entire imperial palace didn't have a peaceful night last night. This imperial soul competition can be said to be unprecedented in history. If this matter becomes a little bigger and provokes the few old farts of the imperial palace, even the 6 continents, 3 continents, and 1 ocean will be in turmoil. Han Wulong muttered in his heart. On the high platform, Luowuya, Long Pashan, and the others had already arrived. On the other side of the high platform, Zhuochu Feng and the others were kneeling. They looked very haggard. Everyone had their heads lowered and looked very haggard. "What's going on? Isn't it supposed to be a commendation ceremony?" "I don't know. Look, why is Jun Haotian in there too?" "Yeah, wasn't Jun Haotian released already? He even rescued Zifeng. Could it be that the demonic creatures are related to him?" When Ling Yifeng heard the whispers of the people around him, he started to frown. Countless thoughts flashed through his eyes. "No matter what happens later, we must take Su-yi away." Han Wulong secretly clenched his fists as he spoke to the experts of the Limitless sect behind him. On the other side, a disciple pointed at the white light in the distance and said loudly, "The Palace Master is here, the Palace Master is here." Halala! Everyone immediately restrained their expressions. After the battle in the Broken Sword Ocean, everyone had a new understanding of Palace Master Duanmu's strength. Just the mention of Duanmu's name was enough to make them feel terrified. Above the void, a frost-like aura rapidly surged, and the surrounding cold wind immediately lingered in everyone's heart. The hair on their backs stood on end as if they were being suppressed, and they prostrated themselves on the ground. Duanmu Xiaoman quickly descended. Her immortal appearance was outstanding, but her complexion was a bit pale. She sat upright on a high platform, but she was still as cold as before. She coldly looked down at everyone from the heavenly palace. Behind her were Gue, Long Pashan, Luowuya, and the other elders. "Let's begin." Duanmu Xiaoman lightly opened her thin lip. Gyue nodded to both sides and walked up the high platform. A few Heavenly Palace disciples immediately accepted the order and presented a few boxes covered with red silk. Whoosh! Everyone's eyes shot towards the 3 boxes, their eyes filled with anticipation. Although they already knew that Su-Yi would definitely take first place in martial and soul cultivation, many people still hoped that he would gain something in alchemy and smithing. If Su-Yi really took first place, it would be an extremely shameful matter for the Heavenly Palace. The commendation ceremony will now begin. After receiving Duanmu Xiaoman's signal, Gyue's heavy voice reverberated throughout the entire plaza. Gravel flew everywhere, and a boundless soul aura immediately suppressed everyone. Although there are some unforeseen events in the Heavenly Palace this time, it is still handled appropriately. The Heavenly Palace Soul Competition has ended successfully. Next, I will announce the first place of soul cultivation. Gyue said. Who? Everyone's eyes looked towards Palace Lord Duanmu. They were puzzled because Su-Yi wasn't here. Clearly, Su-Yi should be the first place of soul cultivation. If he wasn't here, then this commendation ceremony would be meaningless. Wait! Han Wulong and a group of Boundless Sect's disciples walked forward and cupped their fists towards Gyue. Elder Gyue, this commendation ceremony is naturally for everyone to participate. Clearly, someone isn't here. How can we commend them? Who is this commendation ceremony? Everyone present nodded lightly. Someone said in a low voice, although I don't want to admit it, Su-Yi saved all of our Heavenly Palace's disciples. He relied on his strength to take first place, so he should be rewarded. For this reward, if he isn't here, then the commendation ceremony is useless. Gyue was a little embarrassed. Han Wulong was well aware that Su-Yi was injured. He was afraid that the Boundless Sect was forcing Palace Lord Duanmu to hand over Su-Yi. Han Wulong, don't pester endlessly. Long Pashan roared. Luowiao, Long Pashan, and the other elders were very clear about Palace Lord Duanmu's situation. Every one of these confidants had a solemn expression. They all wanted to quickly end the Heavenly Palace Soul competition. What was this Han Wulong acting for? Could it be that he wanted to take advantage of Palace Lord Duanmu's weakness to snatch him away? Su-Yi was currently lying in the earth vein. How could he wake up? This was simply a joke. Even Zhuo Qufeng was brought here. Why isn't Su-Yi here? Without Su-Yi, the Heavenly Palace Soul competition won't be held today. Han Wulong didn't care about anything else. His eyes shone brightly as he shouted. Boom! Duanmu Xiaoman stood up and aimed a monstrous chill at Han Wulong. Everyone on the high platform lowered their heads, not daring to look her in the eye. They all guessed that this time, the Boundless Sect was going to completely go against the Heavenly Palace. At this moment, a steady and vigorous voice came from afar. Who said I wasn't coming? The voice was loud and vigorous. Suddenly, a wild and ancient aura began to spread in the air. A figure descended like a huge bird and landed on the high platform with a loud bang. The huge impact made everyone tremble and take a deep breath. Su-Yi! Swoosh! All the elders on the high platform rushed up. Long Pashan and Luowiao sized up Su-Yi. They all knew how serious Su-Yi's injuries were. It was simply a miracle that he was fine. Good boy. This is the first time I, Old Long, admire a young boy. You are really amazing. Amazing. Elder Gu was also surprised. Yesterday, he was the one who carried Su-Yi to the heaven-controlling earth vein. Today, he actually came out of the earth vein safely. It was unbelievable. After Su-Yi bowed to them one by one, he said to Han Wulong, Sect Master Han, we haven't seen each other for a few days. Why do you miss me so much? You have such a big lineup to welcome me. When Han Wulong saw Su-Yi as if nothing had happened, he was also extremely surprised. Thinking of his rudeness just now, Han Wulong said awkwardly, It's good that you came out. Follow me back to the Boundless Sect. Su-yi waved his hand and looked back at the fairy-like Duanmu Xiaoman. The feeling in his heart began to change. No rush, no rush. I promised you and Palace Master Duanmu. This commendation ceremony has to end, right? Chapter 1693. Han Wulong frowned and said, All right, Palace Master Duanmu, since that's the case. Please begin. Duanmu Xiaoman's eyes flashed with killing intent. She snorted and ignored Han Wulong. Su-yi turned around and met Duanmu Xiaoman's eyes. Duanmu Xiaoman glanced at Su-yi and said through Yuan Qi transmission, Are you courting death? Looking at Duanmu Xiaoman, Su-yi relaxed a little. His brows began to furrow, and a dispirited aura flowed out. Su-yi knew that Duanmu Xiaoman was blaming him for forcing himself to stand out, and instead of staying in the earth vein, he had to come out and show off. If I didn't come, I'm afraid there would be more trouble in the Imperial Soul competition. Su-yi smiled bitterly. Duanmu Xiaoman's eyes flickered. Her cherry lips opened, but she hesitated. But thank you. Grandpa told me that your pills are very effective. You took good care of them. As soon as she finished speaking, Su-yi stood beside Long Pashan and Luowuya and nodded. The two were also full of admiration and curiosity towards Su-yi. Their attitude had changed greatly. Su-yi heard a soft voice, When it's over, come back with me quickly. What about the Boundless sect? Su-yi asked. Why were both of them looking for him so urgently? Su-yi's heart was filled with doubts. My imperial palace is not afraid of the Boundless sect. The matter between us is not over yet. Before that, you can't go anywhere. Su-yi's heart skipped a beat when he heard this. He was afraid that the matter at the bottom of the Broken Sword Sea would be brought up again. Not far away, Gyue's robe trembled. Seeing that Han Wulong had already returned to his seat, his deep voice resounded through the clouds. In that case, the Heavenly Rider Soul Tournament Commendation Ceremony officially begins. Whoosh! Everyone's gazes once again shot towards the high platform like sharp blades. Everyone was calculating the rankings of the alchemy and equipment refining competitions in their heart. According to the previously agreed upon rules, the first place in alchemy and chi refinement would each receive a high-grade mysterious grade medicinal pill, mysterious heavenly flame pill, while soul cultivation and martial cultivation would be combined into a chaotic battle event. Everyone could get 3 Dongxian heavenly fire pills if they went 10,000 meters deep. Those who went 15,000 meters deep would get the Heavenly Artifact House's precious treasure, the Green Flame Een Cauldron. As for those who reached the depth of 15,000 to 2,000 meters, they could directly receive the careful guidance of the Grand Elder. Furthermore, for 7 days, they could choose any medicinal pill of the Imperial Celestial Palace. Such a generous offer was enough to select the next Palace Lord. Anyone would be looking forward to it. However, Su-yi has already taken over the fight. Sigh. Indeed, we can't compare to his strength. It's just a pity for Jun Haotian. What do you think Jun Haotian did this time? He was so wise and powerful yesterday, but today, he's become a prisoner again. Countless disciples were discussing among themselves. Among the crowd, only Elder Z was the only martial god with an empty expression. He seemed to be disinterested in everything in front of him. A few elders from Arch K Lake lowered their voices and cast their gazes at Elder Z. It's said that the demonic creature was discovered by Elder Z and his disciple, Z Feng. Listen up, Zhuoqiu Feng and the others have been brought here. They'll definitely give the entire Imperial Celestial Palace an explanation. In Lingwe Peak, Han Yuro, Li Shiran, and the others were looking forward to it. On one hand, Su-yi had won the chaotic battle, giving Gyue and Lingwe Peak a sense of satisfaction. It would definitely shock everyone present. On the other hand, the treasures that he cultivated would definitely shine in the entire Imperial Celestial Palace. Whether or not he could achieve the grand feat of 4 first places would depend on this. Next, I'll announce the rankings of the soul manipulation battle. There are only 3 contestants who reached 10,000 meters this time. Gudong. Everyone held their breaths and listened carefully. The contestants who reached 15,000 meters are Jun Haotian and Zi Feng. Guiyue muttered, and a surge of soul pressure instantly spread throughout the entire place. Everyone looked at Jun Haotian, who was kneeling on the side, and Zi Feng, who didn't come at all. Some of them looked at Elder Zi, who was in a daze with doubt. The contestant who reached 20,000 meters is the heaven-rank soul manipulation master of Imperial Celestial Palace, the helper of Lingyue Peak, Su Yi. Phew! Although everyone had expected this, they were still shocked. Han Yuro and the others cheered in a low voice below the stage. That's great. Brother Su Yi, well done. Chu waved the flag and cheered. His young voice was full of respect and admiration. Su Yi. Han Yuro's eyes were full of Su Yi's figure. When she first met him in Sealing Cloud County, she actually witnessed Su Yi's progress step by step. Unconsciously, Han Yuro clenched her sleeves and nodded repeatedly. In an instant, the entire plaza exploded with cheers. Many disciples who had been saved by Su Yi were shouting Su Yi's name loudly. Su Yi is invincible! Su Yi is invincible! Reaching 20,000 meters and being at the same level as Palace Master Duanmu, such a heaven-rank soul manipulation master hadn't appeared in the Imperial Celestial Palace for 100 years. How could everyone not be shocked? While feeling ashamed of their inferiority, their admiration for Su Yi had reached an extreme level. All their previous prejudices and misunderstandings had vanished with the proof of his strength. There were even some female disciples of the Imperial Celestial Palace who kept looking towards the high platform. When Su Yi descended like a young war god, he was awe-inspiring and had already captured the hearts of many female disciples. So that's Su Yi. I've heard of Su Yi's great name in other provinces before, but I didn't expect him to be so young. And such profound soul mastery. I wonder if he's married or not. Without a doubt, Su Yi's popularity had reached a boiling point in the Imperial Celestial Palace. In just a few days, Su Yi seemed to have become the second palace master of the Imperial Celestial Palace. Before the commendation ceremony began, many rumors had spread that Palace Master Duanmu and Su Yi had worked together to save the Imperial Celestial Palace from the demonic beast. The two had risked their lives and almost lost their lives in the Sea of Broken Swords. This fame caused Su Yi's prestige to skyrocket. He had become an existence that couldn't be ignored in the Imperial Celestial Palace. His heroic act of 2 firsts made him the first person to do so after Duanmu Qingtian. Moreover, it was very likely that he would take 4 firsts. After the announcement, Guiyue walked to Su Yi's side. His face was brimming with excitement as he looked up and down at Su Yi. Palace Master Su, congratulations! I didn't expect you to have such accomplishments. Truly amazing. Su Yi's grand words from back then were about to become a reality today. The always sullen Guiyue and Ling Yefeng could properly display their strength in the Imperial Celestial Palace. Chapter 1694. Long Pashan, Luo Wuyao, and the other elders stroked their beards and praised. To be able to witness Su Yi's achievements with their own eyes, they were truly amazed. Under 20,000 meters, he had turned the tide and directly participated in Duanmu Xiaoman's battle. Such a young man was too dazzling. The two of them had the same thought. To be able to swim 20,000 meters was an extremely rare existence in the entire Yutian Palace. Even with their cultivations, it would take a lot of effort to swim 20,000 meters. Not only was his soul energy heaven-defying, but he also had an extremely powerful soul quality. This child was promising. Everyone present was filled with anticipation for Su Yi. With Su Yi's help, Yutian Palace would only be more glorious. In the upcoming Heavenly Wind ranking tournament, if Su Yi represented Yutian Palace to participate, Yutian Palace would definitely be able to slaughter everyone. Gyue, Long Pashan, and Luohua all had the same thought. Su-yi, who was standing to the side, had an ugly expression. Standing on the high platform, his mind was shaken, and he did not have the slightest bit of interest in the praises. Su-yi's mind probed, and he clearly understood that his injuries were still extremely serious. Everything was supported by the pills that Duanmu Xiaoman had asked his grandfather to give him. Su-yi had come here specifically to plead for leniency for Jun Haotian. As for the praises and what not, they would not run away anyway. The shouts below the stage were like thunder that reverberated in his ears. Instantly, a fire was ignited in Su-yi's heart. Resisting the pain in his body, Su-yi stood up and nodded to the elders beside Gyue. At the same time, he smiled and waved to the audience. Duanmu Xiaoman, who had sensed that something was wrong, had a trace of anxiety in her calm eyes. "Are you okay?" Duanmu Xiaoman asked. Su-yi's mouth curved into a smile. His eyes were firm as he transmitted his voice. "You and I have both endured such a difficult situation. There's no reason for us to lose here. Look, Commandant Palace's morale has been raised all of a sudden." The corners of Duanmu Xiaoman's eyes twitched slightly. Only in front of Su-yi would Duanmu Xiaoman's coldness be slightly colored. Gyue waved his hand, and a few disciples of the Command Heavenly Palace behind him brought out 3 boxes made from soul stones. Gyue looked back and said, "Su-yi, these are the 3 things that we agreed on back then. 3 Dongxian Heavenly Fire Pellets, Green Flame Een Cauldron, and Heavenly Travel Token." Then, Gyue's aura surged, and a strong wind blew away the 3 cloths. Hua! When the red silk was lifted, an earth-shattering soul pressure mixed with an incomparably rich medicinal fragrance pervaded the entire plaza. Everyone was shaken by it. Gulp! Countless pairs of eyes in the square stared at the 3 boxes at the same time, and countless swallowing sounds came from their throat. The Dongxian Heavenly Fire Pellet was a high-tier mysterious grade elixir. It was not something that an ordinary sect could take out. In addition to the Green Flame Een Cauldron and Heavenly Travel Token, at this moment, it represented that Su-yi's position in the entire Command Heavenly Palace was unparalleled. He could use the resources of the Command Heavenly Palace freely. What was even more shocking was that Su-yi was not even a member of the Command Heavenly Palace. He was only a Heaven-tier soul controller recognized by the Command Heavenly Palace. If such a talent stayed in the Command Heavenly Palace, then the Command Heavenly Palace would definitely rise to another level. Perhaps he would be another terrifying existence after Duanmu. Below the stage there was envy, jealousy, and worship, but even more was shock and horror. Looking at the burning gazes below the stage, Su-yi was still a little unnatural. "Su-yi, congratulations! Back then, this old man said that if you came to the headquarters, you would definitely have greater achievements. Now, it has already far exceeded my imagination." Su-yi received the 3 wooden boxes and forcefully endured the pain in his heart as he said, "Elder Gyue, it's all thanks to you that I'm able to achieve what I have today." Gyue nodded heavily. He wasn't arrogant and possessed extraordinary natural talent, so his admiration towards Su-yi grew. As soon as he finished speaking, Gyue, who was adept in observation, noticed that the gazes that were looking at Su-yi had turned towards Jun Haotian and Elder Zifeng, who were amongst the crowd. Instantly, Gyue was clearly aware that Su-yi intended to participate in the commendation, even if his heart was greatly hurt. "Elder Gyue, how will Jun Haotian be dealt with?" Jun Haotian, Zifeng, and he'd arrived at 15,000 meters at the same time. Zifeng was the instigator of the blood-red sea of broken swords, so any punishment wouldn't be excessive. However, Su-yi felt that Jun Haotian wasn't as bad as he'd imagined. At the very least, when compared to Zhuqiufeng, Jun Haotian could be considered to be a straightforward and upright figure. Moreover, Jun Haotian might be able to swim to 15,000 meters by relying on his own strength, so wouldn't it be too much of a pity if the command palace gave up on such a genius? As soon as Haotian sent Zifeng back, he went to the Iron Rules Hall to report and explain everything. Now, all the elders are already aware of it, so it isn't appropriate for us to stand out and plead for leniency. So, we followed the palace master's orders and dealt with him in public. After that, Gyue turned around while his soul pressure was released once more, and a bright light flashed in his eyes. Bang! He glanced at the clamorous crowd in the surroundings and said sternly, "The command soul competition belongs to the capable. It's truly the fortune of my command palace that Su-Yi was able to obtain the first in 2 competitions, but there's always punishment." Punishment? Looks like it's related to Zhuoqiu Feng and the others. That's not all. Zifeng and Zhuoqiu Feng deserved it for causing such a huge incident. They almost harmed all the young disciples of our command palace. Kill. The expressions of some disciples of command palace that received the notice in advance instantly changed from admiration to resentment. The amount of shock they felt towards Su-Yi was equal to the amount of hatred they felt towards Zhuoqiu Feng and Zifeng. Amongst them, some ordinary elders were the ones that shouted the loudest. Fortunately, Su-Yi arrived in time and helped their disciples disperse the broken sword seawater. Otherwise, with the cultivations of their disciples in the martial Tao, even if their hearts and souls weren't injured, they would be suffocated to death. As soon as he finished speaking, Gyue ordered the disciples to bring Zhuoqiu Feng and the others up the platform, whereas Su-Yi and the others directly retreated to the side and sat down before silently waiting to be dealt with. All of you have a rough understanding of everything. Zhuoqiu Feng constructed the devil blood formation in secret with the intention of cultivating a devil technique. Zifeng aroused the desire to take revenge in the command soul competition, and it caused a mighty uproar. The palace master set the competition at the Broken Sword Ocean, yet he was almost killed. Such villains should be punished as a warning to others. As soon as he finished speaking, the myriad of eyes in the surroundings seemed like mad lions that stared fiercely at Zhuoqiu with monstrous, killing intent. Kill! Kill! Kill these bastards! Successive days of punishment had already caused Zhuoqiu Feng and the others to be extremely haggard. At this moment, curses were being hurled incessantly, and the slightest carelessness would cause them to drown to death. So, they didn't even dare raise their heads. There were even many people that were agitated and directly climbed up the platform while soul torrents appeared in their hands, yet they were forcefully stopped by the others. Duanmu Xiaoman looked coldly at Zhuoqiu Feng who knelt there, and her eyes were suffused with coldness. "Zhuoqiu Feng, do you have anything to say?" Luo Wuya roared furiously. Zhuoqiu Feng's entire body shuddered when he was called out, and he trembled slightly while a few strands of his black hair became disheveled, causing him to seem extremely aged. Chapter 1695. Long Pashan and the other elders all stood up and slammed the armrests of their chairs into smithereens. Their fury erupted like a volcano. "Zhuoqiu Feng, you bastard! You almost harmed the entire heavenly command palace. Don't you have any remorse?" Fortunately, Palace Master Duanmu discovered it in advance. Otherwise, once the demonic creatures under the Broken Sword Ocean were formed, the entire cloud region would die with you. Who knows what kind of calamity would befall the 6 continents, 3 continents, and 1 ocean. You are the sinner of the entire heavenly command palace. Don't you know what you've done? You tyrannical dog thief! The vassal elders all cursed loudly, their spittle flying all over the sky. At first, everyone had some doubts about Duanmu Xiaoman's decision to move to Broken Sword Ocean. After such a series of twists and turns, he suddenly realized that the Duanmu Xiaoman had long known about the changes in the Broken Sword Sea and made a last-minute decision to lure out the culprit of this chaos. The eyes of the branch palace masters of the Heavenly Dragon Continent, the Taihang Continent, the Immortal Sword Continent, the Divine Tiger Continent, the Sky Clarity Continent, the Boundless Continent, the Central Continent, the Netherworld Continent, and the Azure Ocean Continent's branch palace masters stared extremely wide open while their veins bulged up. Their flushed red faces were like a group of roaring lions, and they wished for nothing more than to skin Zhuqiu Feng and the others alive. Since you don't want to talk, what about the others? Luo Wuya flicked his big sleeve. Wu Kuan, Qing Gaoming, and the others who were also kneeling at the side were already scared out of their wits. At this moment, when they were called out, they immediately trembled like sifting chaff. Prostrating himself on the ground, he knocked his forehead heavily on the ground, creating countless small holes. He was crying and laughing at Duanmu Xiaoman, who was sitting on the high seat. Palace Master, I was wrong. We don't know anything. Yeah, it was all Zhuqiu Feng's willful actions that caused such a calamity. We really don't know anything. Palace Master, please spare my life. The two Vice Palace Masters began to complain tearfully. Then, the rows of people kneeling on the ground began to complain tearfully and tremble. All of a sudden, the place was filled with cries and howls. The group of people who acted like tyrants in Drive Heavenly Palace had now become street rats that everyone wanted to beat up. All of them shut up. Zhuqiu Feng had a gloomy expression as he roared furiously. A trace of hatred instantly flashed in the eyes of Zhuqiu Feng, who hadn't spoken since the beginning, and he said furiously, Duanmu. Winner takes all, there was no need to say more. Since he's going to die anyway, why don't you fulfill his wish? Stop humiliating me. With light steps, her fragrance wafted in the air. Duanmu Xiaoman, who was as pure and holy as a fairy, her icy eyes were filled with contempt and mockery. Then why aren't you making a move? Duanmu looked coldly at Zhuqiu Feng, and his moon-like eyes were filled with disdain. Zhuqiu Feng was first stunned, and then he gritted his teeth tightly while his hatred towards Duanmu Xiaoman surged explosively once more. What a ruthless person! Duanmu. Was he trying to kill him by destroying his heart? You want me to commit suicide in front of everyone? Very good. The corners of Zhuqiu Feng's eyes twitched while his expression turned gloomy and gloomy. His bones were pressed down to the point they emitted cracking sounds, and the energy within his entire body surged explosively. A strand of soul pressure that suffused the surroundings surged explosively once more, and then he fell to the ground with a bang. His head smashed heavily onto the ground, causing him to seem like a corpse. On the high seat, the icy blue waterfall on Duanmu Xiaoman's right hand had vanished swiftly, and the remaining glow emanated waves of the aura of death. Divine Snow Seal. Everyone gasped successively, and the eyes of all the experts below the arena instantly narrowed. The Thousand Frost and Divine Snow Seal were two sets of high royal-grade cultivation techniques created by Duanmu Xiaoman. The Thousand Frost Seal was a formidable martial skill that contained spatial techniques, whereas the God King's Seal was an extremely formidable soul skill that was only suitable for Duanmu Xiaoman to cultivate. It was a cultivation technique that was extremely useful towards soul energy and soul pressure. Once the Divine Snow Seal was executed, the soul would be obliterated. According to rumor, so long as one was sealed by the Divine Snow Seal, then their body and divine sense would be controlled by Duanmu Xiaoman, and their soul pressure would drop swiftly. If the seal wasn't unsealed, then their meridians would be gradually sealed by extremely fine ice crystals in the end, and then they would be able to watch helplessly as death approached. 7 days later, they would instantly transform into ice and shatter. During this period of time, their divine sense would still exist. Besides feeling extreme coldness, they would also feel boundless pressure. At the later stage, it would be like falling into a kingdom of divine snow, and countless illusions would appear before their eyes. Duanmu Xiaoman wants to torture Zhuqiu Feng to death. Han Wulong's hairs stood on end while his palms were covered in cold sweat. Zhuqiu Feng was instantly like a twitching worm. His resentful expression from before had instantly frozen, and his dark blue skin was extremely shocking and terrifying. In just a few breaths of time, Zhuqiu Feng stopped moving, and he was stiff like an ice sculpture. When they saw Zhuqiu Feng's appearance, a few tens of culprits directly slumped to the ground. For a time, the sound of heads kowtowing resounded incessantly, and it was like a small earthquake that shook without end. Many people were terrified to the point yellow and white liquid flowed out from between their legs, and for a time, the entire high platform became extremely awkward. Luo Wuya, are all the people who have been abusing others in the past few years here? Duanmu Xiaoman's cold voice resounded. Luo Wuya was shocked in his heart as well, and then he said respectfully, all of them are here. The others have already received different degrees of punishment. Then push all of them to the abyss of the Hall of Iron Rules. Luo Wuya raised his head to glance at Duanmu Xiaoman, and everyone was shocked. This time, Duanmu Xiaoman had killed decisively, and she really had the intention to kill, so they didn't dare say anything. These few tens of people had been fostered by the Celestial Palace, and they'd spent countless manpower, resources, and financial resources to kill them. Duanmu Xiaoman's courage caused their hairs to stand on end, and it was like a bucket of cold water had been poured over them from head to toe. This is the consequence of disrespecting the palace lord. Death is nothing to be regretted for harboring disloyalty. Men, drag them away. Do it immediately. Guyue's eyes didn't have the slightest bit of sympathy, and he snorted coldly. In an instant, everyone kowtowed even more fiercely, and the sound of their skulls cracking was not few in number. Everyone's face was ashen, and the Celestial Palace disciples below were both shocked and applauded. As for Li Shiran, Han Yuro, and the others, when they heard this decision, their small faces twitched, and they all clenched the corners of their clothes tightly. They couldn't bear it, and their faces were solemn. And that Zi Feng from the Arch K Lake, send him to the abyss as well, Duanmu Xiaoman said faintly, and turned to sit back on her seat. One reward, one punishment, Duanmu Xiaoman punished in front of everyone. It was not only an explanation for everyone, but also a warning. Those who were disloyal to the Celestial Palace would not be tolerated. Jun Haotian, Zi Feng, and Su Yi all swam to 15,000 meters, but the results were completely different. Palace Lord. When Elder Zi heard Zi Feng's name, he was instantly excited. He pushed through the crowd, and scrambled up to the high platform as if he had gone mad. Duanmu Xiaoman raised her white hand and an ice wall rose up. The ice crystals that filled the sky dazzled everyone, and they closed their eyes. Elder Zi was frozen in place, his stooped body swaying in the wind. His eyes were empty, and his expression was bleak. Palace Lord, Zi Feng was confused for a moment. I beg you to give him a way out, please give him a way out. This old man is willing to take the punishment for him. Elder Zi's lips trembled, and he was extremely cold. The soul pressure that covered the sky seeped into his bones, and it was terrifying. Chapter 1696. Duanmu Xiaoman did not reply, but her eyes were cold. What Zi Feng? What number 1 in Arch K Lake? They were nothing in front of Duanmu. Even Jun Haotian was insignificant in Duanmu's eyes. Luo Wuya hurriedly pulled Elder Zi back. His eyes changed rapidly, indicating for him to stop talking. Elder Zi, on account of your eagerness to protect your disciple, if you dare to say such words again, I will throw you into the abyss. Luo Wuya said angrily. Then, Elder Zi's eyes trembled. Like a pile of mud, he was in extreme despair. His hair and beard turned snow-white and fluttered in the air. He was like an old man with one foot in the grave. He could not help but shake his head as tears streamed down his face. Looking at the sad Elder Zi, Su Yi's mind was instantly filled with the image of a short man in his 60s or 70s. When he was rumored to have died in the Divine Sword Valley, Elder Su must have felt the same helplessness. Su Yi's heart instantly stirred. Although Zi Feng's crimes were unforgivable and he was possessed, to someone who had painstakingly nurtured him, Zi Feng meant everything to Elder Zi. The most ironic thing was that Jun Haotian was going to sacrifice his life for a stubborn master. Sigh. At this moment, sighs and sighs could be heard from below the stage. He was originally a genius, but he ended up like this. At this moment, a tall figure on the stage attracted everyone's attention. Jun Haotian's slightly thin body was kneeling on the ground. No matter how the people beside him begged for his life, his eyebrows were still raised. He was full of determination and was unmoved. Poor Jun Haotian. Master is about to die tragically and he is scared silly. There is no reaction at all. Yes. If I were him, I wouldn't be able to take it. Originally a genius, he was used by his master for his entire life and was shackled at such a young age. Such an ending is really hard to imagine. The discussions of the ordinary elders and disciples were like steel awls that stabbed into Jun Haotian's spine. Han Yuro and Li Shiran could not stand it anymore and turned their heads slightly. Looking at Jun Haotian, who was as calm as water, Su Yi narrowed his eyes. His heart could not help but surge. Does this guy want to die so badly? There is no reaction at all. Zi Feng and Zhuqiu Feng have completely different attitude. Anyone would be disappointed. However, Jun Haotian's calmness in the face of a desperate situation made Su Yi see him in a new light. Among those of the same age, there were very few who could make Su Yi feel that their minds were tough and their soul energy was heaven-defying. Seeing that Jun Haotian didn't lose his elegance in the face of death, Su Yi nodded heavily. I'll walk on my own. Jun Haotian raised his eyebrows and said softly, I'll walk on my own. Jun Haotian's eyes were like water as he glanced at the sky above the imperial heavenly palace. The corner of his mouth twitched slightly as he stood up and bowed respectfully to Duanmu Xiaoman, Elder Gu Yu and the others. Of Haotian, Master has already punished me. Haotian will never forget the imperial palace's nurturing. I will repay it in my next life. His voice was sonorous and powerful, and every sentence was delivered to everyone's ears. His attitude was neither servile nor overbearing, and everyone was moved. The eyes of Gyue and the others lit up before dimming down. They did not have the slightest room to plead for Palace Master Duanmu's decision. Even if they could, they did not dare. Pleading for Jun Haotian was undoubtedly placing themselves in Zhuqiu Feng's faction. Sympathizing with Jun Haotian was undoubtedly reprimanding Duanmu Xiaoman. Stomp, stomp, stomp. Every step Jun Haotian took was extremely firm. He was like a boulder that shook the hearts of others. When he passed by Su Yi, their eyes met. The pressure of their souls conflicted with each other. Neither of them wanted to give in. At this moment, a trace of fighting spirit flashed in Jun Haotian's eyes. It was extinguished in the blink of an eye like a spark. Su Yi, you are my lifelong rival. Let's have a proper competition the next time we meet. Ah! Jun Haotian couldn't help but laugh, and a trace of sorrow flickered between his slanted brows. Su Yi thought in his heart. This was powerless resistance, and it was a submission to fate. It was a compromise to reality. Silent sighs spread out before every single elder of the imperial palace, and they couldn't help but sigh in their hearts. Could it be that the imperial palace is about to lose a decisive genius? In the end, the competition between Su Yi and Jun Haotian ended with Su Yi's victory. However, Jun Haotian's outcome was unexpected by everyone, and they sighed lightly in their hearts. Zhuqiu Feng, who lay on the ground, was simply like a joke when compared to their disciples. All of them revealed expressions of disdain towards Zhuqiu Feng, who lay on the ground. Wait! Su Yi instantly stood up with a serious expression and wrinkled his nose. In an instant, everyone's gazes swept towards Su Yi, and Jun Haotian, who was about to leave the stage, also turned around. Su Yi walked to Duanmu Xiaoman's side and stared at her face as he said, Palace Master Duanmu, I have a request. Hearing this, Duanmu Xiaoman's crescent brows frowned slightly. She had roughly guessed what Sui wanted to say. You want to plead for Jun Haotian? That's right. This matter has nothing to do with Jun Haotian. I hope that Palace Master Duanmu can give him a way out. A trace of surprise flashed on Duanmu Xiaoman's cold face that was like white jade. Everyone was slightly surprised. Sui was actually surprised by this competitor. There's no room for negotiation in this matter. You can leave. In an instant, a soul pressure rushed into Suyi's mind. The heavenly origin demon's soul trembled violently, and many snowflakes instantly appeared in front of Suyi's eyes. The monstrous qi locked onto Suyi's body like a claw. In front of Duanmu Xiaoman, Sui felt that he was extremely small. This is the disparity in strength. Compared to Duanmu Xiaoman, I'm really too small. Suyi's heart suddenly surged with monstrous waves. In the distance, Jun Haotian's eyes were undulating. His body swayed slightly, and his lips trembled in surprise. He didn't expect that in the last second, the one who spoke up for him was Sui, who hadn't fought many times. However, Sui had his own thoughts. Stubbornness once again surged in his heart. Jun Haotian was very similar to him when he was alone and helpless. He had the mysterious ball of light, but Jun Haotian had nothing. If he had chosen to give up at the volcano back then, he wouldn't be here now. Sui gritted his teeth. This was not only to save Jun Haotian, but also to save himself. He was using his blood and qi to save his state of mind that was about to collapse. Life should be controlled by one's own hands, and not controlled by others. At this moment, Sui wanted to fight for Jun Haotian, to fight for himself, to fight for the greater thousand world, to snatch the solitary world. Saving a person is far more meaningful than killing a person. Sui stirred up his soul pressure and resisted the pain in his meridians. His incomparably deep eyes were like a cold pool, looking at Duanmu as if they contained endless power. Boom! Duanmu seemed to see that thin figure in the world of ice and snow again, fighting against the heavens and the earth, the unyielding figure who protected himself under his body. At that moment, Duanmu Xiaoman's eyes were filled with tears. She lightly pursed her red lips and said indifferently, "For him, you want to defy me?" The corners of Suyi's mouth curled up slightly, and a proud look appeared on his face as he said, "If it were you, I would do the same." Chapter 1697. Suyi's words had two meanings. If the person who needed redemption today was Duanmu Xiaoman, Sui himself would definitely step forward and save Duanmu Xiaoman from danger. And as Duanmu Xiaoman, there would definitely be people she wanted to save. She would definitely understand Suyi's actions. Killing a person is far less meaningful than saving a person. This sentence was powerful and resonated like a valley, circling around Duanmu Xiaoman's heart for a long time. An imperceptible fluctuation flashed through her eyes. Immediately, a murderous soul aura intimidated the entire audience. The flag flying high in the distance instantly froze and stopped fluttering in the air. Everyone present felt a chill in their hearts. The vast and boundless pressure was accompanied by an endless chill. In the next second, it was as if everyone's heart and soul would be frozen. Everyone was silent, not daring to breathe loudly. As the master of Yutian Palace, Duanmu Xiaoman was like an iceberg that had been deposited in Yutian River for thousands of years. With a flip of her hand she was majestic. That vast and mighty aura between heaven and earth once again surged into everyone's heart. No one had ever dared to face her head-on. Even Gue, Luo Wuyao, and the others had solemn expressions and their bodies stiffened. Time passed by, but it felt like many years had passed. Countless people below the stage widened their eyes in shock. They thought that Sui was too bold. This was a peerless existence who could destroy a second-rate sect with a raise of her hand. But Sui was indifferently pleading with Duanmu Xiaoman for Jun Haotian, A person he had met by chance and even had some grudges with? Publicly slapping Duanmu Xiaoman's face? Either he was too crazy or he was tired of living. Big Brother Su! Sui, Han Yuro, Li Shiran, Chu Tianwu, and the others who had been saved by Su Yi clenched their fists. They didn't dare to move, their eyes nervous. Her blazing gaze followed the rising temperature in the surroundings, burning everyone's hearts bit by bit. The fiery atmosphere reached freezing point in an instant because of Duanmu Xiaoman's cold intent. The soul pressure that filled the sky instantly engulfed the entire plaza. It was cold and bone-piercing. The air pressure in the air was extremely low, and there was a faint trace of extreme danger. Sovereign, what about Sui? A few experts from the Boundless sect, who were also Origin Ancestor Realm experts, stood behind him and spoke in low voices. Yuan Qi surrounded their bodies as they made preparations. Han Wulong, who was standing with his hands clasped behind his back, did not expect the atmosphere to be so tense. His heartstrings tightened for no reason, and he was ready to rescue Su Yi at any time. Let's wait and see. Duanmu Xiaoman, this woman, is unpredictable. When they were at the bottom of the Broken Sword Sea, Duanmu Xiaoman wanted to save Su Yi first. But now, the murderous aura on Duanmu Xiaoman's body was too strong, and it was unfathomable. Then, Su Yi and Duanmu Xiaoman's eyes met. Su Yi, who was on the stage, wrinkled his nose and circulated the Origin Supreme technique. Although the soul pressure on the other side was extremely strong, Su Yi knew that Duanmu Xiaoman did not have the intention to kill him. It was as if she was saying, "You know me." Duanmu Xiaoman's gaze trembled. She snorted and looked away. After a while, Duanmu Xiaoman said faintly, "If you can get 4 first places, I will spare him." 4 first places. Did I hear wrongly? 4 first places. Impossible. That's an impossible task. As soon as the words came out, everyone's eyes were filled with shock and astonishment. A chill ran down their spines, and most of them were in disbelief. Ever since the establishment of Jutian Palace, there had never been 4 first places. If Su Yi could get 4 first places, not only would he be the light of Linghua Peak, but he would also be the light of Jutian Palace. That would shake the entire 6 continents, 3 continents, and 1 ocean. That was the perfect performance of a person. Not only was it a symbol of soul energy, but it was also a symbol of martial strength and abundant resources. Could such a person really exist? Everyone was extremely doubtful. Alright. Su Yi shrugged his shoulders and turned to look at the nervous Han Yuro and Li Shiran. His eyes were full of confidence, as if telling them not to be afraid because he was here. Guyue instantly glanced at Guyue and said, "Guyue, to show fairness, go and invite those people over first." Instantly understanding Duanmu Xiaoman's meaning, Guyue nodded heavily and then quickly got off the stage to instruct the waiting disciples. "We can do it. Big Brother Su, we can do it." Li Shiran mustered her strength and said loudly, "Big Brother Su, watch us." Chu immediately followed behind and shouted. Facing Su Yi's trust, Chu and Li Shiran also showed a firmness that was different from before. After Su Yi returned to his seat, Jun Haotian was still escorted to the side. He stared at Su Yi with eyes full of gratitude. Looking at Jun Haotian, Su Yi smiled calmly and thought to himself, "Back then, I should have also hoped that there would be such a person to save me, right?" He couldn't help but shake his head and smile bitterly. Why couldn't he meet such a kind and awesome person like himself? The traces of the others, including Zhuqiu Feng, were all cleaned up. At this time, they were probably in the abyss of the Iron Rules Hall. "Bring the boxes of the top 3 alchemists." Guyue's brows were solemn. At this moment, the rankings of alchemy and soul refining were especially important. Following which, the 3 pill boxes that were still covered with red silk were placed on the ancient table one by one. These 3 bottles of elixirs were refined by the disciples of Heavenly Command Palace in a very short time. They are of the highest grade and the best completion, so they can be taken directly. Some of the other elixirs don't have enough medicinal properties, and some are only half finished. But to show fairness, the elixirs that are not selected will be displayed in the Heavenly Pill House for 7 days. Because of the special nature of the Heavenly Command Soul competition, all the elixirs will be reconsolidated by the alchemy deacons of the Heavenly Pill House. After the announcement, you can go to the Heavenly Pill House to collect the elixirs by yourself with the Jade token. The same goes for the weapons later. This is an extra reward of the Heavenly Command Palace. Great! This is a complete surprise. Yes, to be able to get the support of the alchemy deacons, our elixirs will definitely be far better than ordinary elixirs. Finally, there is some return. But the 3 bottles of elixirs on the stage seem to be of very high grade. I don't know who refined them. To be able to refine them in such a short time is too amazing. Finally, it was the alchemy segment. The commendation segment continued. Han Yuro, Li Shiran, and Tian Wu, who participated in the alchemy segment, had already stretched their necks very far. They couldn't wait for Gyue to reveal all the items in one go. Long Pashan winked at the various palace masters of Heavenly Command Palace and said, Hey, old Luo, take advantage of the fact that Gyue hasn't revealed the items yet. These elixirs and weapons were arranged by you. Tell me, who are these 3 from? Let's take a gamble. Chapter 1698. Luo Wuya smiled and shook his head. He pretended to be mysterious and said, I can't say. Ah. After he finished speaking, Luo Wuya turned to look at Su Yi and nodded. His eyes were filled with anticipation. What's there to be mysterious about? Long Pashan rolled his eyes. All the elders were sitting in a row. Lu Wangjiang from the Taihang continent, Zhu Jianjun from the Immortal Sword continent, Wu Zhouzi from the Divine Tiger continent, Nie Shuangjue from the Taiqing continent, Dan Honggong from the Boundless continent, and Ling Wuning and Lin Shuangping from the Zhongzhou and Songhai continent. Except for the 2 female palace masters from the Zhongzhou and Songhai continent, the palace masters from the other continents were all old men in their 60s. They were all hale and hearty, and their souls were intimidating. They were calm, and their soul energy was extremely restrained. At first glance, one could tell that they were top masters. Ling Wuning and Lin Shuangping, who were slightly weaker, sat in a corner with natural manners. The 2 palace masters were elegant and well-maintained. They looked to be in their 30s, and there were only a few shallow wrinkles between their eyebrows. One was like the moon in the water, and the other was like the flowers in spring. They each had their own charm, and their smiles were full of maturity. It was said that Ling Wuning had struggled all the way from the Arch K Lake to the position of Palace Master of the Zhongzhou continent. After Gyue stepped down, Ling Wuning took over. Speaking of which, Ling Wuning was promoted by Zhuoqiufeng. It was not easy for him to remain untainted. Little Ning, Little Ping, do you think any of them are from your family? Long Pashan was rejected by Luo Wuya, and now he came to the palace masters of the Zhongzhou and Songhai continent. Ling Wuning, who had always been aloof and straightforward, glanced at him and said softly, So much nonsense. We'll know once we open them. What's the hurry? The women of the Yutian Palace can't compare to those of the Tianlong continent. They're all fierce. Long Pashan, who had always been the big brother of the vassals, immediately got angry. Lin Shuangping, who was sitting in the corner, covered her mouth and chuckled. Big brother Long, don't talk nonsense. It doesn't matter if you scold us, but you're scolding our palace master. This move was truly powerful. Long Pashan immediately shut his mouth in embarrassment. Everyone present held back their laughter. Lin Shuangping said, Brother Long, you should learn more from the young man next to you. You're already so old, but you're still so immature. Su Yi raised his head and looked at Lin Shuangping. She had a beautiful face and a slightly plump waist. She must have been an extremely beautiful woman when she was young. When Lin Shuangping saw Su Yi glancing at her, she returned the greeting with a smile. Her eyes were filled with sincerity, giving Su Yi an extremely comfortable feeling. Hua! The red silk was blown up high by Guo's strong wind, and the spiritual energy of the 3 bottles of pills instantly assailed everyone's nostrils. Everyone present was shaken by this. The alchemy test officially began. Nian Nian was different from before. Because of Su Yi, alchemy and medicine refining had become the highlight. Everyone's breathing stagnated. The eyes of the vassals and elders also lit up as they nodded in praise. Luo Wuya stroked his beard and said, "There are still many talents in the younger generation of our imperial palace. To be able to refine such pills in such a short time, and all of them are mysterious grade pills. It's really not easy." Mysterious grade. Many people below the stage stared directly at the 3 bottles. From right to left, they were labeled 27, 45, and Ling Yufeng. The first 2 were labeled as ordinary elders. Ling Yufeng participated as an ordinary elder in the competition, so he was labeled as Ling Yufeng to show the difference. Lu Wangjiang, Duke Danhong, you two should be happy. Long Pashan pointed at the first 2 bottles and said. It turned out that one of them was a disciple from the Taihang continent, and the other was a disciple of Duke Danhong from the Boundless Continent. Both of them had entered the top 3 in the competition. The most surprising thing was that Ling Yufeng had been selected again, which shocked everyone. If Ling Yufeng could get first place again, Su Yi would have 3 first places. The 2 Imperial Palace Masters smiled and nodded, extremely satisfied. They looked at each other with disdain and competition in their eyes. After Gu Yu lifted the red silk, a look of joy appeared on his face. The overwhelming number of pills turned into streaks of light that entered everyone's skin through their pores. The gloominess and palpitations from before were all swept away. Duanmu Xiaoman, who was sitting on the stage, was very focused as she listened to Guiyue. These 3 bottles of pills have been tested by Elder Luoya. They are all mysterious grade pills. Team 27 will be assisted by the Taihang continent, Team 45 will be assisted by the Boundless Continent, and Ling Yufeng will be assisted by Su Yi and Han Euro. The explanation is complete. The Heavenly Pill House's Pill Elder, Elder Mo, and Elder Hong will test them. Invite the 2 elders. Guiyue said in a low voice. Soon after, the sound of something breaking through the air rang out. Among the crowd, 2 elders of the Heavenly Pill House had arrived. The 2 old men were near the end of their lifespan. One of them was wearing a dark green robe, while the other was wearing a dark red robe. Their robes were covered with fire patterns, and an ancient aura of heaven and earth instantly filled the entire place. Both of them had silver hair and were extremely eye-catching. Their bodies were light and did not have the slightest bit of pressure. However, when they saw the medicine, their eyes lit up and an indescribable force surged out from their bodies. With the 2 of them as the judging criteria, it was absolutely fair. The crowd discussed in low voices. Core Elder. He was the house master of the Heavenly Pill House. Like the Supreme Elder, he was someone who would not come out of seclusion all year round. In recent years, the affairs of the Heavenly Pill House have been handed over to the pill refining deacons, who specialize in studying medicinal theory and pill recipes. Elder Mo is well versed in the medicinal theory of all things in the world, including the medicinal properties of herbs. Elder Hong is well versed in the cauldron fire technique. The control of the flame of the pills that have passed through their hands is just right. There is absolutely no one more suitable than them to make the judgment. Yes, I don't know if Su Yi can win first place again. Faintly, whether Su Yi could win first place or not had become the focus of attention in this soul-riding Heavenly Soul competition. Standing in the distance, Jun Haotian's eyes were even more anxious as he stared at the situation on the field with bright eyes. The fire of his life was instantly boiling hot under the insistence of Su-yi. The introduction of the others filled her ears, but it made Li Shiran even more nervous. At this time, a warm little hand was placed on her hand, and the palm was covered with sweat. Looking up, Han Yuro was looking at her with a smile. "It's okay, you can definitely do it. Believe in yourself." Li Shiran smiled like a flower, like a spring bud blooming in March. It could be seen that Han Yuro was also extremely nervous. The two elders immediately bowed to Duanmu. Duanmu said, "Two elders, let's begin." Turning around, the two elders looked serious, narrowed their eyes, and shouted loudly. Chapter 1699. Elder Mo and Elder Hong each threw out the cloth in their hands. A moment later, a pure white pill floated out of the bottle. It had a faint luster and looked extremely holy. Elder Mo's eyes flickered. A gentle breeze came from his hand, and the medicinal fragrance obediently went to the tip of Elder Mo's nose. Black Lotus Poison Purging Pill. Taihang Continent, the furious Buddha Black Lotus on the unmelted snow river can be used as a catalyst to cure all kinds of poisons in the world, not to mention poisonous gas and miasma. It's a must for cultivators to break through and travel. Materials: top grade. Recipe: mid-grade black grade. Pill grade: mid-grade black grade. Elder Hong then took a closer look and said, Team 27, Black Lotus Poison Purging Pill. Fire level: medium. Cauldron: mid-grade black grade. Considering the urgency of time, it's really difficult to have such quality. Overall score: A-in. Listening to Elder Mo's explanation, Taihang Continent's Lu Wangjiang and the 27 elders below the stage sat up straight. Their faces were flushed, and they were very satisfied. In the Hutian Soul competition, the scoring criteria were based on materials, recipe level, grade, fire level, and cauldron. The scoring results were divided into A, B, and C, and each category was further divided into high, middle, and low grades. Taihang Continent's Hutian Palace also contributed greatly to this pill refining project. They spent a lot of effort, and to be able to get Elder Mo's approval, the score of A-in was really not low. In the past Hutian Soul competition, A-in-A could definitely get first place in pill refining. It was really not easy to refine a pill with such a high completion rate in such a short period of time. The disciples below the stage who assisted Team 27 were even more proud. They looked at the two sides and Su-yi on the stage and raised their eyebrows. The corners of their lips curled into a smug smile. "What are you so proud of? We haven't even gone up yet." Han Yuro's face was full of disgust, and her brows were full of disdain. But Dan Honggong's expression was full of contempt. He said lightly, "A small black lotus poison purging pill is enough to make you so proud. Humph! What a waste of the title of Hutian alchemist." Lu Wangjiang shook his head when he heard this. He glanced at the corner of his eye and said with slight displeasure, "Then let's wait and see. It's Duke Hong's masterpiece." Only Long Pashan was extremely excited. He said softly, "Old Luo, you've made a good choice. You've brought these two rivals together. How exciting! This alchemy competition is like a fight. It was so fun. Ha!" The examination of the second elixir pill began immediately. Following the same pattern, Elder Mo and Elder Hong once again shot out their soul ribbons, which lingered above the elixir bottle of the boundless land. As soon as the bottle cap came off, a golden light soared into the sky. In an instant, it turned into a vast area and scattered all over the place. The violent wind was like a storm, rushing into the sky. An abnormally majestic energy instantly spread throughout the entire area. An incomparably rich medicinal fragrance rushed into everyone's nostrils. Then, a pill filled with golden light spun in the air, containing astonishing energy fluctuations. It was extremely shocking. The dazzling light instantly illuminated the entire high platform. It was like a scorching sun, and one could not look directly at it. Whoosh! Everyone's soul shook instantly. Such an unparalleled pressure must be the birth of an extremely powerful elixir. Even Elder Mo and Elder Hong quickly moved closer to observe carefully. Elder Mo's voice instantly rose a few notches. He was extremely excited and said loudly, "Golden Sun Soul Condensing Elixir. It's the Golden Sun Soul Condensing Elixir." He was so excited that his white beard swayed in front of his eyes. His eyes instantly glanced at Duke Hong, who was sitting at the side, filled with excitement. "Dan Hong Gong, congratulations, congratulations! Looks like after not seeing each other for so many years, you've really put in a lot of effort this time," Elder Hong said with a smile. Instantly, Elder Mo's words caused an uproar below the stage. "Golden Sun Soul Condensing Elixir? What's that? Father, what is that old man talking about?" Han Wulong's eyes instantly lit up. He rubbed his fists and said, "As expected of the Heavenly Palace. Their alchemy skills are indeed heaven-defying. They can actually refine a Golden Sun Soul Condensing Elixir in a day. Even if our limitless sect had the materials, it would still take half a month's time. This speed is simply unheard of." "Father." Han Yuro frowned and looked at Han Wulong, who did not reply for a long time. She was slightly anxious. Han Wulong instantly pulled his attention back and said in a low voice, Heaven Barbarian Martial Artists' vitality attributes are divided into the 7 elements of metal, wood, water, fire, earth, wind, and thunder. When a person is about to die, their vitality attributes will also be extremely weak. This Golden Sun Soul Condensing Elixir is a life-saving elixir for metal attribute martial artists. It is refined from a Demon Grandmaster Expert's Demon Core. One elixir can allow metal attribute martial artists to recover their elemental vitality. A good quality Golden Sun Soul Condensing Elixir can definitely bring the dead back to life. What? Demon Grandmaster Realm? Yes, Demon Grandmaster Realm. However, to be able to completely refine it in such a short time, it's probably at the first stage of the Demon Grandmaster Realm. But it's already very rare. Han Wulong cleared his throat and stared at the Golden Sun Soul Condensing Elixir floating in the air. Gulp! Li Shiran and Ah Chu both opened their mouths wide. They had never seen a Demon Void Realm savage beast, let alone a Demon Grandmaster expert of the Demon Clan. Below the stage, there was a round of shock and astonishment. In an instant, the atmosphere reached its peak, and the applause and cheers reached the peak. The same explanation came from Long Pashan and the others. Long Pashan raised his eyebrows at Su-yi and said, "Kid, I'm afraid it's dangerous. Old Dan's move is very awesome. The Golden Sun Soul Condensing Elixir is no joke." Hearing this, Su-yi's eyebrows became serious. Elder Mo strode to the front of the stage and announced with unprecedented enthusiasm, "I announce that the Golden Sun Soul Condensing Elixir's ingredients, extremely high grade, elixir recipe, black grade mid-tier, grade, black grade high tier, heat, high grade, furnace, black grade high tier, overall score, A+, rare." He didn't even give Elder Hong a chance to speak and said everything. Elder Hong nodded his head repeatedly and couldn't stop smiling. Another round of exclamations and praises came like a string of cannonballs. One could imagine how shocking this Golden Sun Soul Condensing Elixir was. All the astonished gazes were like sharp swords shooting at Dan Honggong. Dan Honggong, whose face was flushed, couldn't stop the joy on his face. He enjoyed being the center of attention. On the other hand, Lu Wangjiang and the 27 elder captains' faces had turned the color of a pig's liver. They were seething with rage. Dan Honggong. A black-grade mid-tier elixir recipe actually allowed the kids to refine a black-grade high-tier elixir. Just this Demon Grandmaster's inner elixir must have taken you a lot of effort. Elder Mo smiled and couldn't stop praising. I'm afraid those kids at Arch K Lake are not worthy of you taking out the lightning furnace, right? Elder Hong stroked his beard and said, raising his eyebrows at Dan Honggong. Chapter 1700. Hearing this, Dan Honggong stood up slightly amidst the praises. His hunched back straightened, and his face was filled with satisfaction. This time, I brought a little girl from my family. She is quite talented in the art of alchemy, so I brought her here to show everyone her skills. Otherwise, I wouldn't feel at ease letting her use my profound grade high-tier cauldron. After hearing this, Elder Mo and Elder Hong were even more interested. Dan Honggong said faintly, Ru Xian, why don't you come out and greet Palace Master Duanmu and the 2 alchemy masters? You can't be rude with such praise. They saw a young girl about 15 or 16 years old. She was delicate and pretty, and her long black hair was combed high behind her head with a green hairpin inserted horizontally. She was like jade, gentle and courteous. She walked over leisurely. Under countless surprised gazes, she puffed out her chest. Her well-developed breasts were like 2 proud little bunnies. She bounced up and down as she walked in front of Grand Duke Dan Hong. She said softly, Grandpa. What? She is Dan Honggong's granddaughter? She can control the lightning-drawing cauldron at such a young age? This is unbelievable. Many people, including Han Euro, had a whole new level of respect for this girl who was neither servile nor overbearing. On the stage, Dan Honggong's eyes were filled with joy. Ru Xian, go and greet them. When she walked past Su Yi, Dan Ru Xian glanced at Su Yi with a hint of disdain. It was as if she was declaring that even though Su Yi had taken first place in 2 competitions, she was still the absolute king in alchemy. Su Yi did not feel friendly towards Dan Ru Xian, so he did not show too much emotion. His eyes were still calm, but his mind was filled with thoughts. Like grandfather, like granddaughter. No matter how polite she is, she still looks down on others. Su Yi sneered in his heart. Looking at her beautiful figure, Su Yi bowed to Palace Master Duanmu. The good impression that Su Yi had of her due to the earlier shock was instantly swept away. My daughter Dan Ru Xian greets Palace Master Duanmu, Elder Mo, and Elder Hong. Duanmu Xiaoman's beautiful eyes were filled with hope. Her snow-white face did not waver in the slightest as she said indifferently, Good. That's right. Congratulations to Duke Dan Hong for having such a good granddaughter. After a few words, he no longer looked at Dan Ru Xian. Duanmu Xiaoman frowned when she sensed that Duanmu Xiaoman wasn't very sad about her. In the blink of an eye, a smile appeared on his face, because Elder Mo behind him said, Dan Honggong, after the Heavenly Soul competition, you must let Ru Xian come to my Heavenly Pill House more often. It's been a long time since a newcomer has come to the Heavenly Pill House, and it's all us old bones who are supporting the scene. Yes. I also like Ru Xian a lot. The 4 people on the stage were chatting vigorously, as if they were announcing Ling Yefeng's death sentence. Guiyue, who was hosting from the side, looked rather embarrassed. Below the stage, Han Euro and the others were even more indignant. She muttered, Is this a family reunion? Is the test over? He was just trying to get close to her. What a joke. Yes. We haven't even entered the stage yet. How do you know we're going to lose? Ah Chu was so angry that she stomped her feet and said loudly. Soon, her voice reached Su Yi's ears. He couldn't help but shake his head and smile bitterly. Duke Dan Hong is a black-grade high-tier furnace and a demon grandmaster inner core. If it were anyone else, they would have already admitted defeat. Only the people from Ling Yefeng are still persisting. Looking at Tian Wu, Ah Chu, and the others below, Su Yi's spirits were instantly lifted, and his brows revealed great confidence. Elders, the 3rd bottle hasn't been tested yet. Can you guys talk a little later? Su Yi said faintly. Su Yi's words caused the 4 people who were in full swing to stop abruptly, and they all revealed extremely ugly expressions. Elder Mo snorted softly. He looked at Sui, then at Ling Yefeng's bottle and snorted softly. Who are you? I'm testing the elixirs. It's not your place to interrupt. Ling Yefeng's elixirs are ordinary. There's no medicinal aura at all. I don't think there's a need to test it. Elder Hong walked closer and spread out her soul pressure. She didn't open the bottle, but her soul lingered around the bottle and sniffed a few times. No way? Elder Hong actually said that there's no medicinal aura. Did Ling Yefeng make a mistake this time? Sui won't be able to get first place. Sui is a soul controller, not an alchemist. What can those people from Ling Yefeng refine? That's true. It seems like Sui has no chance of saving Jun Haotian. Poor Jun Haotian. He's dead just like that. In an instant, the entire audience started debating and questioning. Most people sighed because of Elder Hong's words. Some were disdainful, and most were disappointed that they didn't get to see a good show. No way. Elder Hong is bullsh *ting. Achu roared. Han Yuro pulled Achu back. Achu, come back. When we refined it, it was like this. There's no medicinal aura at all. Han Yuro also started to get nervous. She immediately calmed down and said to Tian Wu. Senior brother Tian Wu, are you sure there's no problem with the elixir recipe? Tian Wu nodded firmly and said in a deep voice, I swear in the name of Ling Yefeng. Although this elixir is rare, the recipe can be found in Jutian Palace. I've studied the recipe since I was young. There's no mistake. Han Yuro raised her eyebrows. She knew that it was pointless to say anything now. Only the results would prove it. Trust was the key to this matter. Sui trusted Ling Yefeng and gave them the resources and cultivation vessels. Ling Yefeng would also trust Sui. Sui, trust us. There's no problem with the elixir. Sui, who received the Yuan Qi transmission, smiled slightly. They were his teammates, brothers and sisters who had gone through life and death together. He had no reason not to trust them. With a slight smile, Elder Mo said to the disdainful Elder Hong and Elder Mo, Elder Hong, only the results will prove everything. Whether it's a donkey or a horse, just bring it out for a walk. Elder Hong and Elder Mo looked impatient. The two of them had been immersed in medicinal aura all year round. How could they not be able to differentiate the medicinal aura? This was clearly Su Yi's disdain for them. Dan Ruxian had already returned to Dan Honggong's side. Her beautiful eyebrows were full of smiles as if she was mocking Su Yi's absurdity. Could an unknown soul controller like him be compared to a core controller from the Drive Heavenly Palace? Su Yi's words caused 1,000 ripples. Many alchemists were dissatisfied with his words. Even if Su Yi had saved everyone and didn't care about Elder Hong and Elder Mo, he didn't care about Jutian Palace and Heavenly Pill House. Chapter 1701. All the young disciples of the alchemy faction were cursing wildly. Sui, if Elder Hong says there isn't one, then there isn't one. Aren't you going too far by speaking so rudely? Don't think that you can do whatever you want in the alchemy faction just because you saved us. I think you're just an idiot. Just like this pill bottle, you're just an empty shell. Hearing the ridicule and cursing that filled the sky, Sui scratched his ears and did not say anything else. A murderous aura rose in his heart. He turned around and said to Duanmu Xiaoman, Palace Master Duanmu, please open the pill bottle for me personally. At this moment, Duanmu Xiaoman's gaze instantly landed on Sui. She did not know what Sui was planning. This was a matter of the alchemy faction's face and Jun Haotian's life. Duanmu Xiaoman stared coldly at Sui. Duanmu Xiaoman realized that Sui did not look like he was joking at all. Are you sure? Duanmu Xiaoman asked indifferently, her crescent brows furrowed. Once again, it was confirmed that Duanmu Xiaoman was giving Sui a chance. Duanmu Xiaoman hoped that Su Yi would retreat in the face of difficulties. 2 first places were already outstanding enough. I'm sure. Su Yi's bright eyes shone with unswerving determination. He was incomparably certain. Whoosh! Duanmu Xiaoman's voice had just faded when a trace of terrifying energy gushed out from her body. A white streak of light flew out from her fingertips and struck the bottle cap. Bang! The bottle cap jumped out, and everyone's hearts jumped to their throats along with the arc of the bottle cap. All the criticisms were shattered in an instant. Whoosh! A light breeze blew past, but there was still no trace of medicinal energy from the bottle cap. It was as if the bottle was empty. Elder Hong, who was standing nearby, sneered. The disdain in her eyes was even more obvious. Poochie! Dan Ruxian covered her mouth with her small hand and chuckled softly. Her eyes curved into crescents. Dan Honggong, who was sitting to the side, also couldn't help but smile and lightly hit Dan Ruxian. Ruxian, he's not someone who specializes in alchemy. If you smile like that, wouldn't it make us seem like we're lacking in bearing? Dan Ruxian crossed her arms and placed them on her knees. She lowered her body slightly but still couldn't stop smiling. Grandpa Xian knows she was wrong. The 2 elders, Mo and Hong, shook their heads incessantly. Facing such a stubborn person like Su Yi, they simply didn't know what to say. Ignorant brat, do you really want to force this old man to go to the extreme? Su Yi's sword-like eyebrows immediately furrowed. A stream of blood and qi began to surge in his mind. He couldn't believe it. He gently shook his head. Impossible. Something must have gone wrong. It's impossible that it doesn't have any medicinal aura. Su Yi frowned. Su Yi was puzzled. The 9-turn dragon scale grass had been directly uprooted from the 9 Stars Valley. He had also personally planted it in the mysterious space when the spiritual qi was soaring and the medicinal aura was at its peak. When I gave it to Sure Ran and the others, the spiritual qi was still soaring. How can it not have any medicinal aura after being refined? At this time, the audience had already burst into laughter. Everyone pointed at the pill bottle and laughed incessantly. Ha ha! I've never seen such an idiot. I gave him face but he doesn't want it. Ha! I see that there's no medicinal pill in this pill bottle at all. It must be a lie. Guya also walked to Luo Wuya's side in disbelief and whispered, Wuya, there's no medicinal aura at all. How did you determine that this is a mysterious grade pill yesterday? Luo Wuya's face was solemn but he wasn't very surprised. He patted Guya's shoulder and said, I can't say, but I can tell you that this is definitely a mysterious grade pill. Long Pashan stood up and shouted angrily, What do you mean by you can't say? If you don't tell me today, I'll beat you until you're looking for your teeth on the ground. Everyone below the stage laughed until their stomachs hurt. Han Wulong's cold voice caused everyone around him to feel a chill in their hearts. They began to restrain their expressions and shut their mouths. Rower, it's okay. Let's go back to the Boundless sect. Father will find someone to teach you alchemy. What's so good about this? Han Wulong looked at Han Yuro, who had a face of disbelief, and his heart was full of pity. Impossible, impossible! Li Sure Ran retreated in panic. Ah Chu, Tian Wu, Han Yuro, and the others' faces were also not very good. Tian Wu's scalp suddenly went numb. He murmured, It doesn't make sense. When we first came out, there was still medicinal aura leaking out. How could this be? Old Hong must have made a mistake. They are old and dim-sighted. They don't know the benefits of the treasure. Ah Chu still straightened his neck and said loudly, Little brother, don't be unreasonable. You've already slapped your face so hard. Why are you still insisting? The disciples of the other teams, including the elders, looked at Ling Yefeng, who still refused to admit the truth, with disappointment and contempt. Su Yi stood on the high stage, his eyes cold. His gaze moved slightly as he pondered carefully about what had gone wrong. Although he was not an alchemist, He had seen a pig run before. There was definitely something wrong with this pill. Su Yi's heart was very firm. Materials? Pill formula? Heat control? Soul control? Cauldron? Su Yi's heart was in a mess. That's impossible. There must be a problem somewhere. Suddenly, when he thought of the last part, a cold light flashed through his mind. Give up. Emo and Hong shouldn't be wrong. Duanmu Xiaoman transmitted her voice to Su Yi. Immediately, Su Yi looked at Duanmu Xiaoman again and said loudly, Palace Master Duanmu, I would like to test it myself. Duanmu Xiaoman's face froze when she heard that. She sighed slightly, knowing that Su Yi was stubborn. Su Yi, you arrogant brat. You're obviously doubting me. Elder Mo had a fiery temper. When he heard that, he immediately rushed over. Su Yi was not annoyed. His lips curled slightly as he straightened his shoulders. He glanced at Elder Mo and pointed at Elder Hong. Palace Master Duanmu, it's not that I look down on the pill faction of the Heavenly Command Palace. It's just that there are miracles in everything. I believe in my teammates and the hard work of Ling Yefeng. What hard work, what a teammate. You're very eloquent, brat. Elder Hong pursed her lips. Without waiting for Duanmu Xiaoman's reply, Su Yi's killing intent instantly intensified. Vital qi surged out from the great void ocean like a river. Dense killing intent surrounded him like needles. The surging qi waves made the two pill faction elders take 2 steps back in shock. The corners of their eyes twitched. Su Yi raised his eyebrows and looked at Elder Hong. Brat, you don't know that this is no longer your era. Don't flaunt your seniority here. If I don't believe in Ling Yefeng, do you think I'll believe in you 2 pill faction elders who popped out of nowhere? What the *CK did you say? Say it again if you have the guts. Elder Hong and Elder Mo's faces turned red. Their aura exploded as they rushed toward Su Yi. Their old but sturdy bodies kept shaking on the high platform. They were then stopped by Guan Luoya. The atmosphere in the arena suddenly exploded. Below the stage, there was a wave of curses. Everyone pointed at Ling Yefeng and Su Yi's noses and cursed. Many of the equipment faction, martial faction, and soul faction looked cautious, afraid of being drawn into the battle. Good. Well said. Han Yuro and the others clapped and cheered, their eyes shining. Han Wulong also couldn't stop clapping and shouting. Brat Su, well said. Don't be afraid. I'll support you. Chapter 1702. Lin Shuangping, who was joking with Su Yi just now, was smiling like a flower now. She said to Ling Wuning, I really like this guy's temper. Wuning, he is the one who made a big noise in your Zhongzhou province. Don't you want to say something? This guy is neither servile nor overbearing, which makes the 2 elders flaunt their seniority. Su Yi even made them swear. This guy is really sharp-tongued and smarter than others. He can make the holy mountains so angry. He is really extraordinary. A cold light flashed in Ling Wuning's eyes. In her opinion, Su Yi was much more difficult to deal with than the 2 elders. Dan Ruxian was also a little confused. The situation in the field had changed rapidly, and now it was Su Yi's home ground. Everyone's eyes were fixed on the dispute between Su Yi and Hong Mo. She clenched her teeth and grabbed Dan Honggong's shoulder tightly. Grandpa, do you still want to compete? Dan Honggong's face was also ugly. He stood up instantly and shouted, I say, do you still want to compete or not? If not, let's go to the next round. Hearing this, Su Yi had long disliked Dan Honggong and his granddaughter. He squinted and said, Are you Palace Master Duanmu or Elder Dan Honggong? Do you have the right to speak here? You! Dan Honggong shouted. Dan Honggong stood up and pounded the table. His powerful soul energy set off countless ripples in the space. In an instant, he felt a more majestic pressure pressing down on him, making him unable to stand up. Su Yi! Duanmu Xiaoman glanced at Dan Honggong and then stared at Sui. Her voice was soft, but it was like the sound of heaven. The whole field quieted down immediately. You go and test it yourself. However, this is not only about Jun Haotian's life, but also the reputation of the alchemy sect. You decide for yourself. Boy. If you can see the difference, we will write our names backwards. Elder Hong's eyes were burning with anger. Sui waved his hand and said with a light smile, "There's no need for that. Since you are elders of the Pill sect, if I win, each of you will have to fulfill one of my conditions." This kid is really shrewd. He's always scheming. Luo Wuya stroked his beard and smiled. Long Pashan also changed his posture in his seat to make himself more comfortable. This brat never fights a battle that he has no confidence in. He purposely angered the two old men. It's just as you said. He must be up to something. Long Pashan's appetite had been piqued, and he couldn't wait to see what would happen next. Good. Kid, if you succeed, we brothers will each promise you one thing. Soon after, they got into position, and everyone made room for Sui. The 2 pill bottles in front had already been removed. All the onlookers held their breaths and opened their eyes wide. They wanted to see what kind of magic Sui had. They saw Sui circulate his yuan qi, and an extremely gentle yuan qi surrounded the pill bottle. Instantly, a pill poured out of the bottle. A small, pitch-black pill spun under the support of the yuan qi. It had no luster, no medicinal energy, nothing. Gudong. Many disciples were already secretly trying to stifle their laughter. Sui continued to surround the pill with yuan qi. The pitch-black pill looked ordinary, and it couldn't even compare to a normal qi-increasing elixir. Deliberately mystifying. After a long while, time passed by slowly, and the entire scene seemed to have stopped. Long Pashan and the other elders had already lost interest and shook their heads. Only Duanmu Xiaoman, who was sitting on the high platform, didn't look away. Her cold face was full of trust for Sui. She murmured in her heart, "You can do it, you can do it!" Old Luo, I'm afraid you've made a mistake this time. Is Sui holding on because he can't back down? Long Pashan frowned and stroked his beard. No, he's making sure. Luo Wuya's eyes flashed. In an instant, Elder Hong and Elder Mo slammed the table and stood up. Elder Hong shouted loudly. Enough. Don't put on an act over there. Let everyone accompany you in your nonsense. Elder Mo's lips curled as he coldly glanced at Sui, who was immersed in his perception. He then looked around with a calm expression. I announce that the champion of the Imperial Soul competition is from. Dan Honggong stood up slightly. The competition was the best proof of someone who was obsessed with the Tao of alchemy. Dan Rushuan's eyes were arrogant, and her face was filled with confidence. Team 27. Hey! Han Yuro couldn't help but start to panic. Li Shiran, Tian Wu, and the others all shouted, "It's not over yet. You can't announce it." Elder Mo glanced at it and took a deep breath. Then, a violent burst of energy erupted from his chest as he spoke slowly, word by word, from between his teeth. Gold. Yang. Bang. At the same time, a yellow light flashed in the air, and an extremely fierce energy shot out from the pitch-black pill. Boom. Streaking across the sky, the energy beams spread out in the air. The golden light that shot into the sky seemed to have traveled through time and space. In an instant, space distorted, and a monstrous wave of energy shot out. The wind and clouds in the sky quickly gathered, and the world turned dark. The vast and clear sky suddenly became obscure and bleak. Under the dark clouds, the sky was filled with stars, and nebulas surged. Countless stars flashed, and with the movement of the tiny lights, the entire sky suddenly became incomparably strange, as resplendent as the clouds. Outside the dark clouds, wind and thunder clanged, and countless tiny arcs of lightning surged like snakes, roaring without end. Roar! Lightning struck the high platform like a ferocious beast, and countless sparks burst forth. The world shook, and an ancient aura instantly filled the air. Because of the violent impact just now, Elder Mo, who was closer, fell to the side. His eyes were wide open, and he was inexplicably shocked. At this time, all the elders had already stood up, and their eyes were undulating. The entire place was silent, and they were stunned on the spot, as if they had forgotten how to speak. Chi. Chi. After the beam of light shot into the sky, the pitch-black pill shell in the air began to peel off like iron shavings, slowly revealing its true appearance. On the small pill that was covered in nebulas, an extremely thick milky white aura was constantly emitted, like a divine light. On the almost transparent pill body, one could see an extremely small vortex condensing, and it was constantly surging crazily. With such a natural phenomenon, there was bound to be a shocking pill being produced. This kind of monstrous wind did not dissipate for a long time, and like a mighty pressure, it sent medicinal qi to the tip of everyone's nose. The medicinal qi surged like a tidal wave, and as long as one approached it, they would feel as if they had taken an excellent medicine. It made one feel refreshed, as if they were floating in the clouds, and an indescribably carefree and comfortable feeling. As for Duanmu Xiaoman, who was sitting upright on the high chair, there was a slight change in her figure. A trace of deep surprise flashed through her serene jade-like eyes. At this time, Dan Ruxian was already shocked to the extreme. She had never seen such a shocking phenomenon before. All the elders, including Dan Honggong and Han Wulong below the stage, looked at the phenomenon in the sky, and their hearts were deeply shaken. Initial Earth Grade. It's an initial Earth Grade pill. Chapter 1703. Poof! The dense nebula condensed, and the monstrous energy that engulfed the heavens and earth continued to circulate. It was like an ancient and profound energy that deeply shocked the eyes of everyone present. Countless disciples of the Jutian Palace opened their mouths wide. Shock and astonishment filled everyone's mind. Boom! At the same time, Su Yi's body unknowingly soared into the sky and was at the same level as the Xian-grade medicinal pill in the air. The strange phenomenon lingered in the sky. At this time, only Su Yi knew that the divine spiritual veins in his body and the primordial qi in his body were surging. Whoosh whoosh! Inside the void spirit sea, the vortex in his dantian was exactly the same as the vortex in the transparent Dan body. It also had an extremely fierce and inexhaustible energy. It was like a surging tide that could rush to the entire heaven and earth at any time. Wind and thunder rumbled as the heaven and earth roared. In the midst of the sparks, Su Yi's divine spiritual veins seemed to have been stimulated. The medicinal energy flowed through his meridians slowly and gently. At this moment, Su Yi felt a sense of comfort that he had never felt before. Closing his eyes, his divine sense followed the flow of the medicinal energy and continued to move. The damaged meridians seemed to be wrapped in an incomparably smooth and warm current, from the meridians to the flesh and blood, from the bones to the skin. Creak! Crack! Endless explosions erupted from Su Yi's joints, surrounded by resplendent light. In an instant, Su Yi's entire temperament changed. His skin was as lustrous as warm jade. On the glowing skin, there were strange and mysterious runes that flowed from time to time. Looking from afar, Su Yi's evil but not demonic face seemed to have a trace of divine splendor. In front of him, a strand of black hair fluttered in the wind. Behind him, the long robe was fluttering. In the midst of the surging divine light, Su Yi was like a god, majestic and domineering. Seeing this, Su Yi was overjoyed. The meridians in his body were recovering at a speed visible to the naked eye. This 9-revolving soul-refining pill had a certain probability of activating the divine spiritual veins. Therefore, it was connected to his bloodline. He did not expect it to have such a magical effect. Su-yi, who had been holding on for a while, felt a wave of satisfaction wash over him. He thought to himself, I originally wanted to hold on and drink 2 bottles of spiritual liquid from the mysterious space. However, I still need 8 to 10 days to consolidate it. This way, I won't have to waste more time. The medicinal energy of the 9 revolving soul-refining pill is magical enough. Elder Hong and Elder Mo immediately got up from the ground and swallowed hard. Their eyes couldn't help but look at Su-yi and the miraculous transparent pill floating in the air and murmured, It's an Earth-grade low-tier medicinal pill. It's definitely an Earth-grade low-tier medicinal pill. What exactly is Ling Yu Peak cultivating? How can it have such a terrifying effect? Elder Hong's lips were slightly agape and trembling. Look at Su-yi. What is he doing? Elder Mo said softly. Duanmu Xiaoman's heart was also filled with astonishment. Her soul energy was extremely sensitive, and she had long sensed that Su-yi was digesting the Earth-grade pill's medicinal qi. She muttered in her heart, How can he have such a deep compatibility with the refined medicinal qi? Amazing! Amazing! Long Pashan, Nye Shuangjue, and the other elders were also amazed. Looking at Su-yi, who was immersed in the medicinal energy, their eyes were filled with excitement. This kid actually won the bet. He wasn't pretending. He was really confirming the medicinal properties. Long Pashan was so excited that he was drooling. He kept looking at the dumbfounded Dan Honggong, as if he was challenging him. Early Earth grade? In more than a day? Refined by a few kids? How is that possible? I don't believe it. Dan Honggong's eyes were still blurry. He was stubborn. Behind her, Dan Ruxian's face had already turned ashen. She had never seen such a heavenly phenomenon before. Below the stage, where Ling Yu Peak was located, Han Yuro and Li Shiran hugged each other tightly. Because of their excitement, their faces were flushed red. This was the result of their cooperation. It was also the best proof of Ling Yu Peak. At this moment, their eyes were filled with tears of excitement. Great! That's great! We didn't let Big Brother Su-yi down. Li Shiran's eyes were filled with tears of excitement. Su-yi won. Han Yuro was pleasantly surprised. At the same time, the 2 beautiful women's hearts were tightly attached to Su-yi. Looking at Su-yi's impressive prowess and shocking the entire audience, their hearts were filled with incomparable joy. As for the others, some of them had not completely recovered from their injuries. When they saw this scene, they directly fell to the ground and gasped for breath. The boundless energy of heaven and earth was crushing them to the point that they could not breathe. More of the onlookers felt their scalps go numb. Then, goosebumps appeared all over their bodies. They felt numb from head to toe, as if they were struck by lightning. They were dumbstruck and did not know what to say. Papa. As the light on the stage gradually disappeared, Su-yi's figure continued to descend. Finally, he landed firmly on the stage. The light around his body disappeared, and his energy disappeared in the air like a whirlwind. His robe fluttered in the wind, looking extremely heroic. In the palm of his hand, a transparent elixir was lying quietly. The transparent and glossy nebula vortex inside the elixir was still surging and rotating at a high speed. The transparent elixir's vortex made everyone's eyes light up. It was definitely amazing because of the amazing energy it contained. The sky cleared and the clouds dispersed. A strong and dazzling golden light instantly hit the high stage and connected with Su-yi. It was bright and dazzling, incomparably brilliant. The energy wind, that was like a small storm, began to dissipate. Between heaven and earth, peace was restored. However, the people's expressions could not return to how they were before. Immediately, the entire arena erupted into thunderous applause, cheers, and shouts. The people from the Tool sect, Soul sect, and Martial sect who were indebted to Su-yi quickly shouted and pushed the Alchemy sect over. Su-yi is mighty! Su-yi is mighty! I told you Su-yi wouldn't make a mistake. But what kind of elixir did he refine? How can it have such a strong energy? Early stage Earth rank. There has never been an Earth rank elixir in the previous soul competitions. Oh my god! Su-yi is so handsome. When he flew up just now, he was so majestic. I really want to get to know him. Both the male and female disciples showered the handsome man on the stage with praises. The alchemy sect disciples at the side were all unable to keep their faces. They were still hooting just a moment ago, but now their mouths were tightly shut. Their faces were burning red, and the red directly reached their ears. It was as if they had just been ruthlessly slapped in the face. Moreover, it was the extremely loud kind. Chapter 1704. Su-yi stretched out his hand and held the pill between two fingers, showing it to Duanmu Xiaoman. Palace Master, this shouldn't be fake, right? Duanmu Xiaoman's eyes revealed a trace of warmth. Su-yi had won the bet, and she was extremely happy. 10,000 years of ice and snow had finally met the blazing sun. It is without a doubt an early-tier Earth-grade pill. Elder Mo and Elder Hong instantly rushed to Su-yi's side and coughed awkwardly, but they still said, "Little boy, can you let us see the pill?" Su-yi could feel the change in their attitudes, and in the blink of an eye, their attitudes had greatly changed. Su-yi no longer harped on it and smiled respectfully. "Please examine it, elders." Su-yi's politeness made the two elders even more embarrassed, and they trembled as they took the pill. The two of them immediately stood to the side, extremely excited. They instantly gathered around the medicinal pill and discussed it incessantly. There was still some time before the test, so Su-yi turned around and walked towards his seat. His footsteps were steady, and there was a faint sense of arrogance and dominance, unlike the slightly dispirited feeling from before. When he passed by Dan Honggong's gaze turned slightly, as if he was extremely embarrassed. Dan Ruxian and Su-yi's eyes met and quickly looked away. Her face was burning red, her lips were tightly pursed, and her nose was also slightly red. She looked like a little girl who had done something wrong. Her head was lowered, and there was no trace of arrogance left. Don't look down on anyone. Remember, you are just an ordinary person. You. Dan Ruxian raised her head and pointed at Su-yi. Her sore spot had been poked, and tears welled up in her eyes. The arrogant and conceited little princess of the Dan family had never received such a face-slapping education. Dan Ruxian wanted nothing more than to find a hole to hide in. Facing Su-yi, Dan Ruxian was furious, but she didn't expect Su-yi to speak. "I am also ordinary, but I believe that there is always someone better than me. I have a group of trustworthy people behind me, and you." "No one." Su-yi's eyes flashed with lightning, startling Dan Ruxian into taking a step back, not daring to speak. Dan Honggong was even more furious and bitterly smiled. "Forget it. It seems that I really am old. The world of you young people, go fight for it." "Humph." Dan Honggong, who was about to leave, was pulled back by Lin Shuangping. She said, "Honggong, young people are always hot-blooded. When you were young, you might have been even more hot-blooded than Su-yi. Ruxian is also very young, so it's better for her to be tempered. Besides, the soul competition isn't over yet. Once it's over, we'll leave together." Su-yi nodded at Lin Shuangping, as if his words had extinguished Dan Honggong's anger. Although the words of comfort were said to Dan Honggong, Lin Shuangping's gaze was fixed on Su-yi, who was walking forward. She smiled and nodded. "This is truly amazing. Next time, I must invite him to Shanghai." Lin Shuangping thought to herself. After that, Elder Mo and Elder Hong finished their discussion. Elder Mo's face was flushed red, and he could not suppress the excitement between his brows. His roar was like thunder, and the rolling sound waves rushed into everyone's mind. Everyone knew that the exciting moment was coming. "Silence. I announce. Lingyue Peak's result, 9 Transformation Divine Pill. Ingredients: Super High Grade. Pill Recipe: Black High Grade. Grade: Earth Low Grade. Heat Control: Perfect. Cauldron: Black High Grade. Overall Score: Super A+. Elder Mo's voice was louder and louder, as if his painstaking work had finally appeared. Everyone was overwhelmed with pride and excitement. Instantly, everyone became excited with every standard. At this moment, Dan Honggong was like a deflated balloon. He slumped back in his chair, shaking his head with a bitter smile. Everyone's hearts were thumping wildly at this moment. When Elder Mo said, Super A+, their eyes and emotions erupted like a volcano. Super A+. What the heck? Super A+ has never appeared in the history of the Heavenly Soul competition. What? 9 Transformation Divine Pill. It's the 9 Transformation Divine Pill. The legendary pill that can strengthen a primitive emperor and break through the shackles of a sky origin sect? It was really refined by Lingwepeak? Moreover, because the 9 Transformation Dragon Scale Herb is extremely rare, it's said that it has a certain chance of forming the divine spiritual meridians in a sky origin sect. Sigh, that's just a legend. This is a real benefit. That medicinal aura is extremely dense. This is the first time I've seen an Earth-grade pill. Even Han Wulong was shocked. He turned his head and looked at Han Yuro, who had a proud look on her face. Did you really refine this? Of course. We're not done yet. We have more. Silence. Before Han Yuro could finish her words, Elder Mo and Elder Hong looked at the lively scene. The climax of the Heavenly Soul competition was fierce, and their faces were filled with joy. Their loud voices suppressed the audience. Elder Mo and Elder Hong talked nonstop. In order to be fair, they explained the evaluation of the 9 Transformation Divine Pill in front of everyone. The 9 Transformation Dragon Scale Herb is extremely rare, and this 9 Transformation Divine Pill's grade is extremely perfect. Therefore, we gave it a super high-grade evaluation, and a high-grade Earth-grade pill was refined from a high-grade mystery-grade pill formula. This is the first time I've seen such perfect refining skills. If it weren't for the rules, Super A+ would be the lowest evaluation. Everyone was amazed and looked at Su-Yi and Lingwepeak. Li Shiran, Chu, and the rest were instantly surrounded by surprised gazes. They were a little embarrassed and blushed. Sitting in his seat, Su-Yi was also very satisfied. He thought to himself, after the cultivation of my mysterious space's medicinal field, how can an ordinary perfect 9 Transformation Dragon Scale Herb compare to it? This low-grade Earth-grade pill is definitely deserved. Elder Mo and Elder Hong turned around with a serious expression. They no longer looked down on Su-Yi as they looked at him and said seriously, Sect Master Su, this 9 Revolutions Spirit Refining Pill is of excellent quality. This time, the two of us have seen wrongly. This old man apologizes for his words and actions just now. Elder Mo and Elder Hong were straightforward and straightforward. Su-Yi's impression of them changed instantly. Su-Yi smiled and said, No. Elders, take a good look. There are 3 9 Transformation Divine Pills. When Su-Yi saw the pills just now, he could already detect that there was not only 1 pill inside, but 3. That was why he said such words. What? The 2 elders' eyes lit up as if they had seen a ghost. They flew up to the high platform. Chapter 1705. After careful verification, Su-Yi's words were indeed correct. The 2 poured out 2 identical black pills from the bottle. They were exactly the same pills that hadn't been peeled off yet. They were wrapped in black iron shavings. They looked very ordinary, but they tightly wrapped the medicinal properties of the pills. Ling Yefeng refined 3 9 Revolution Spirit Refining Pills at the same time? Everyone was shocked by Ling Yufeng once again. How was this possible? At the same time, under the same conditions, he actually refined 3 transformation spirit pills. This time, the dukes present were shocked again. Long Pashan said to Gyue, "Good boy Gyue, you are in the limelight this time." Luoya said, "Yes, it's too much." Gyue also didn't expect that these little guys from Ling Yufeng would bring him such a big surprise. Long Pashan and Luoya stood up and walked to Gyue's side. Their gentle faces were filled with joy. Luoya smiled and said, "Brother Gyue, congratulations! I didn't expect that the little kid from Ling Yufeng would really succeed." Ha! Gyue and Long Pashan were puzzled. Long Pashan said, "Can you tell us why you are so sure that he is a Xian grade alchemist? Even Mo and Hong were wrong, but the palace master of Yutian Palace of Yuzhou saw through it with one glance?" Luoya smiled and looked at the two. He said, "I am not very sure. It's just that there is a layer of rust on the outside. I once saw a weapon in our heavenly artifact house. It was also covered in rust, but it was an extremely sharp earth-grade divine artifact. And it was made with the blue flame cauldron as the prize this time. Combined with what Su-Yi told Shiran before entering the Broken Sword Sea, I was sure. The reason why I didn't say anything was because I took a gamble." Long Pashan pulled Gyue over and said, "Old Luo is amazing. Gyue, you actually hid a treasure similar to the blue flame cauldron?" Not far away, a thunderous roar could be heard. Hong Mo announced at the same time, "I declare the winner of the Imperial Soul competition, Lingyue Peak." All of a sudden, their blood boiled. The people of Lingyue Peak were surrounded by everyone like stars surrounding the moon. The people from Lingyue Peak had experienced ups and downs in such a short period of time. They were still confused and could not believe what had happened. In the midst of the clamor, Elder Hong said to Su-Yi, Sect Master Su, "These 3 revolutions God refining pills are all early stage earth grade. It's too shocking. May I ask who did this on Lingyue Peak? This old man wishes to meet him." Earth-grade medicinal pills were naturally plentiful in Command Heavenly Palace, but to be able to concoct them under such dangerous conditions, in addition to time being tight, it was not something an ordinary person could speak of. Su-Yi then called Han Yuro and the others to the stage. He pointed at Li Shiran, Chu Tianwu, and Han Yuro. Shiran and Ah Chu are both descendants of the Li clan. Shiran is half a step into heaven rank, while Ah Chu has a heaven rank soul. Shiran is extremely sensitive to heat and medicinal properties. As for Tianwu, you all know that he is Elder Gyue's personal disciple. He cultivates both alchemy and smithing and is extremely impressive. As for Miss Yuro, she is the apple of boundless sex eye. The quality of her soul is also extremely high. This time, Shiran was the one who led the refinement, with Tianwu and Yuro assisting from the side. Su-Yi seized the opportunity to push them up so that they could have more praises and showcase Lingyue Peak in front of everyone. Elder Hong and Elder Mo sized them up and nodded their heads in praise from time to time. Elder Hong's gaze finally landed on Li Shiran. "Little girlie, this old man doesn't want to know about the herbs you obtained, but can this old man see what kind of furnace you used?" Li Shiran was shocked at first, but she did not know what to do. She looked at Su-Yi with a shy face and twirled the corner of her clothes with her fingertip. "Ha ha! This old man understands. A furnace is the most treasured item for alchemists. There's no need to see it." Su-Yi took a step forward and explained, "Elder Hong, if Heavenly Pill House can teach Shiran wholeheartedly in the future, this purple flame sun furnace can naturally be seen. This is Su-Yi's first request." Hearing this, the two elders' hearts trembled and their eyes lit up. They knew that Su-Yi deliberately said the words purple flame sun furnace, and did not want to show it to Shiran. It made their hearts itch, so they said directly, "Gyue, this little girl Shiran, you don't have to teach her alchemy in the future. Elder Hong and I will teach her. If you are willing, you can be our personal disciple from today onwards. We are already old, so Sure-Ran will be the only disciple of our closed alchemy sect. Gyue was naturally overjoyed. If Li Shiran could be taught by a pill master, she would definitely become an outstanding alchemy expert in the Heavenly Palace in the future. Then, he said, although I like Sure-Ran very much, I can't ask for more if she is favored by the two of you. However, Sure-Ran, you have to come back often at Lingyue Peak. Li Sure-Ran, who was still in shock, did not know what was going on. Sui gently nudged her and said, Sure-Ran, quickly thank Master. Master, Sure-Ran pays her respects. Elder Hong and Elder Mo smiled and helped Li Sure-Ran up. Their eyes were filled with joy. The more they looked at her, the more they liked her. The descendants of the Li family are indeed extraordinary. Li Sure-Ran grabbed Su Yi's arm tightly. Her eyes were filled with gratitude. Then, she bowed deeply to Elder Gyue. Ridiculous. Dan Ru Xian, who was standing at the side, saw that she was completely ignored. Even her close disciple was snatched away by someone else. She was so angry that she jumped off the stage and ran away. Behind her, Dan Honggong shouted, Ru Xian. With a heavy sigh, Dan Honggong also circulated his primordial qi and chased after his granddaughter. What about the second request? Elder Hong Mo and Elder Mo looked at Sui. Sui took out the space bag that contained the Azure Flame Een Cauldron and gave it to Li Sure-Ran. He said, Elder, please help me merge these two cauldrons. This is my first gift to Sure-Ran. As soon as these words came out, everyone was stunned. After merging, it would be the Imperial Heaven Cauldron. It was a legendary sacred artifact. With the Imperial Heaven Cauldron in hand, refining pills and refining tools would be extremely easy. It could also easily attract ancient remnant souls. It had many endless magical uses. Sui actually gave it to Li Sure-Ran so generously. But merging two cauldrons at the same time required an extremely abnormal amount of soul energy. Sui had already thought about it. This matter must be handed over to an absolutely powerful top expert, and Elder Hong Mo was the most suitable person. Sure-Ran, I hope you can study the alchemy book well under the two elders and win glory for your Li family. Chu's soul quality was higher than Li Sure-Ran's. In the future, her soul cultivation would be higher than Li Sure-Ran's. Sui had always hoped that Li Sure-Ran would have the ability to protect herself while being invincible in alchemy. This way, Sui could be completely relieved. Understanding Sui's meaning, Li Sure-Ran's tears flowed like a spring. Her pale lips were tightly pursed. You are now my close disciple. You are not allowed to cry. Sui smiled and gently scratched the tip of Li Sure-Ran's nose. Chapter 1706. In fact, only Sui knew that he was making it up to his long-lost sister, Su Wan. Good! 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 The two elders said excitedly. The other half of the Een Cauldron has not been found in the Heavenly Artifact House. Although it is a celestial artifact, it can only be reduced to the high grade of the mystery grade. It is difficult for experts to take it seriously. Sect leader Su is so virtuous. I admire you. Without waiting for an explanation, Elder Hong and Elder Mo took Li Shiran to the side and carefully questioned her about what had happened during the refining process. They were so interested that they did not pay attention to anyone else. Great. Chu was very excited. Seeing that her sister could be taught by experts, Chu was very happy. In the distance, Duanmu Xiaoman's eyes flickered. She kept thinking to herself, this guy is so nice to others. Then, the inexplicable jealousy disappeared, and her face became calm again. Duanmu Xiaoman urged, okay, let's move on to the next item. On the other side, Long Pashan was still chatting with Gyue. Gyue waved his robe and came to the center. The others had already left the stage. Let the competition begin. It was still the same 3 boxes, which contained the same weapons used by the 3 teams for training. Everyone began to hold their breath. Sui had already gotten 3 first places. Countless pairs of eyes were like wolves and tigers. They were eyeing the red silk covetously. As long as there was Lingyue Peak's name, it would be half the battle. At this moment, Lingyue Peak's matter seemed to have become everyone's matter. Tianwu and Shu were also very nervous. The red silk fluttered in Gyue's strong wind. Everyone burst into cheers. Yes, yes. There's Lingyue Peak's name. Lingyue Peak is here. Haha. Lingyue Peak is here. Will there be 4 first places? I'm looking forward to it. When he opened his eyes, he saw that the 3 wooden boxes were for the 11th team, the 53rd team, and Lingyue Peak. Gyue let out a long sigh of relief. His hands were trembling. Would the legendary 4 first places really come to Lingyue Peak? It was unbelievable. Since they had just experienced such an exciting alchemy competition, everyone couldn't hold themselves back and stood up one after another. The same procedure was carried out in the equipment forging competition. The Heavenly Artifact House's tool-wielding elder would examine the equipment. On the other hand, the results of the 11th and 53rd squads paled in comparison to the intensity of the refining process. The 11th squad had forged a mysterious grade mid-tier spirit weapon, while the 53rd squad had forged a mysterious grade high-tier Dao artifact. Weapons were divided into 7 levels: Heaven, Earth, Mystic, Yellow, Stars, and Moon. They were further divided into 3 levels: Primary, Intermediate, and Advanced. They were divided into 7 levels: Mortal, Origin, Xian, Spirit, Dao, Magic, and Saint. Therefore, on the whole, due to the suddenness of the incident and the lack of time, the entire refining team did not perform at an extremely high level even though they had a completion rate. When the first 2 results came out, everyone let out a long sigh of relief. Everyone was looking forward to Ling Yufeng's result. TSK, only Lingyue Peak is left. I'm so excited. Everyone looked sideways at the 2 tool-wielding elders. As soon as the box was opened, a sharp roar accompanied by a sharp golden aura soared into the sky. A small dagger broke out of the box. It was as fast as lightning, swaying and flying in the air. The dagger was filled with fiery patterns. There were also several sparkling and translucent blood patterns on it, which were obviously caused by the blood aura. The dagger was entirely red, as if it had just been pulled out of a soldering iron. It was extremely red and translucent. It kept waving in the air, piercing through the air. In an instant it brought along a long tongue of flame, which was extremely eye-catching. What a small dagger! Gyue praised. In an instant a pitch-black space crack was cut open. The biting cold killing intent on its edge made everyone tremble for no reason. A mysterious grade high-tier celestial artifact? The tool-wielding elder's calm face finally showed a gratified smile. The celestial artifact had already become a spirit and had its own independent consciousness. It could break through space and kill. It could protect its owner and also be an excellent assistant for its owner to kill enemies. A mysterious grade high-tier celestial artifact was already the highest level of a weapon other than the Heaven and Earth grade. Without a doubt, it was the best among the 3. A celestial artifact that has become a spirit. Everyone was shocked. Below the stage, Tianwu also let out a long breath and high-fived Ah Chu. As the last item, the pressure on the 2 of them was actually the greatest. Finally, I didn't let down Sui, who gave me so many soul-testing crystals and heavenly treasures. It's naturally not a problem for it to become a spirit. This Crimson Fire Divine Blade didn't disappoint. Then, when the tool-wielding elder announced that Lingyue Peak was still the winner of the competition, a shocking piece of news began to spread all over the place. First place in all 4 items? Lingyue Peak monopolized it? Shock lingered in everyone's heart. They all thought that they had misheard and didn't know how to express the shock in their hearts. At this moment, the onlookers were all dumbfounded. Even Gyue couldn't believe this fact. Lingyue Peak won the Heavenly Soul competition. Sui, you've won first place in all 4 items. Duanmu Xiaoman's voice was still calm, like an ancient well without ripples as she spoke to everyone, as if she was reminding Sui. Jun Haotian, you're not guilty, Duanmu added. Wow! Everyone was shocked. At this moment, Lingyue Peak had become the focus of everyone. Duanmu's words meant that the soul competition was over. Everyone surrounded Lingyue Peak. For the first time, Lingyue Peak was basking in endless glory. He became the center of everyone's envy and jealousy. Master, we did it! Everyone from Lingyue Peak shed tears of excitement. Tianwu, Achu, and the others rushed to the front of the stage and knelt before Gyue, kowtowing heavily. All the humiliation from before was resolved at this moment. Lingyue Peak was invincible. He had reached a peak that Heavenly Palace had never reached before. At the same time, Su Yi's invincible cheers resounded through the sky. In the distance, banners fluttered. Heavenly Palace welcomed the loudest cheers since it was built. It was a cheers that didn't match the calm personalities of cultivators. At this moment, the elders had already made way for the people from Lingyue Peak. They smiled at Gyue as he patted Tianwu and the others. Tears flowed down his face as he said, "Good, good, good! You're all good kids. I'm proud of you all. Lingyue Peak is proud of you all." In addition, Lin Shuangping and Long Pashan were looking at Su Yi in the corner. Su Yi's face was full of smiles. He was extremely happy. Only Su Yi himself knew how much he owed Gyue and Lingyue Peak. This time, he was going to take it all back for Lingyue Peak. He was going to take back everything that Lingyue Peak had lost with interest. Su Yi had accomplished the 3 things that Heavenly Palace wanted to do. After coming out of the Broken Sword Sea, he finally saw his grandfather. He had also refined the 9 transformation divine pill. In the end, he even won back Elder Gyue. Chapter 1707. This kid is really something. If he participates in the Heavenly Wind ranking tournament, I'm afraid Su Yi's name will spread throughout the 6 continents, 3 continents and 1 ocean. Lin Shuangping's eyes glowed with anticipation. The weapon-wielding elder had already put the Scarlet Fire Divine Blade back into the box and handed it over to the people from Lingyue Peak. Tian Chang stood up, wiped his teary eyes, and handed the divine blade to Su Yi. Both sides of the divine blade had already been sharpened. As soon as the box entered his hand, Su Yi could feel a murderous chill in his heart. What a good dagger! Because of the blood patterns on the dagger, Su Yi could feel an extremely familiar blood energy in his mind. Whoosh! The Scarlet Fire Divine Blade's body was like a flowing fire. The fire patterns circled around it like a nebula. It was extremely dazzling. Upon closer inspection, killing intent filled the air. It was also awe-inspiring. It was truly an extremely outstanding divine weapon. The divine blade pierced through the air, leaving no trace of scarlet fire. Spatial ripples appeared in front of Su Yi. To think that such a small blade could possess such great power. Su Yi sighed inwardly. It was indeed a high-tier profound-grade magic weapon. The little divine blade that was already alive circled around Su Yi. Then, it gently tapped Su Yi's forehead and quietly laid in Su Yi's hand, allowing him to control it. It's indeed alive. It seems like it has already recognized you as its master. The Iron Soulfish praised. So fast. This little dagger was born from blood energy. Since you have the blood dragon poison, there's naturally blood energy in your profound veins. Since your smell is similar, this little thing naturally recognized you as its master. Su Yi nodded heavily. Tian Ho couldn't hold back his excitement and grabbed Su Yi tightly. At the same time, He handed over the 2 heavenly flame elixirs that he had obtained from refining weapons and pills to Sui. Sui, this little divine blade was born because of you. This time, it has also recognized you as its master. This is the least I can do for you. You have given Lingwe Peak too much. I, Tian Ho, am unable to repay you. These 2 heavenly fire pills are also Master's idea. Sui laughed heartily as he accepted the pills. He was pleasantly surprised. Adding the pills he had received before, he now had a total of 5 profound-grade heavenly flame pills. In the future, it would be a good thing if he still had such a magic tool to protect himself. Tian Wu, Lingwe Peak's business is also my business. Of course, I will do it without hesitation. What about me? At this time, a firm and heavy voice came from behind him. It was slightly haggard, but it did not lose its magnetism. Sui turned his head. It turned out to be Jun Haotian, who had been released. His figure was slender, and his temperament was still elegant and modest, with a hint of forbearance and restraint. He was handsome and had an extraordinary bearing. He raised his eyebrows and looked at Jun Haotian carefully. The Jun Haotian in front of him was no longer as gloomy as before. His expression was more calm and determined. Sui thought that after this, Jun Haotian's state of mind should have changed greatly, so he blurted out, "Haha! Your business is naturally my business." Jun Haotian smiled bitterly and shook his head. He looked at Sui and solemnly bowed deeply to Sui. He said, "Sui, it was you who gave me a second life. This is a new life. The Jun Haotian of Jutian Palace of the past no longer exists." After saying that, a trace of sadness flashed in Jun Haotian's eyes. In the past, he had carried too heavy a burden. Suddenly, he could follow his heart without restraint, but Jun Haotian had lost his direction in an instant. "It's just that the world is so big, and I don't know where home is." Jun Haotian sighed. Hearing that Jun Haotian had the intention to leave, Tian Ho's eyes suddenly lit up. "How about Senior Brother Haotian? You come back to Lingwe Peak with me first. Lingwe Peak has fewer people, so it's suitable for cultivation. I'm sure Master will be very happy." Tian Ho's eyes lit up. Because of Sui, he actually didn't have much malice towards Jun Haotian. Instead, he had always admired his talent and temperament. Jun Haotian was about to decline when Long Pashan walked over and waved his hand with a frown. He said in a muffled voice, "Haotian, don't listen to Tian Ho's nonsense. From now on, Lingwe Peak will become the #1 peak of Jutian Palace. How will it be peaceful? The mountain gate will definitely be trampled to pieces. You must not go." Tian Ho couldn't help but scratch his head. The current Lingwe Peak was definitely at the top of the mountain and had the lofty feeling of looking down on all the other mountains. Back then, Master had said in front of the Lingwe little mansion, "Let me go while I'm still young. I'll be drunk for 100 years, 36,000 feet. Perhaps in the future, Lingwe Peak would really be free." Old Guiue's lofty aspirations would also have someone to show off. Thinking of this, Tian Ho couldn't help but laugh foolishly. "Haotian, you're bored of Jutian Palace anyways. Why don't you come back to the Heavenly Dragon continent with me? My Heavenly Rider Branch Palace can be considered a treasure trove. You can have anything you want." Long Pashan's eyes flashed and a trace of craftiness flashed across his aged face. Sui took a deep breath and looked at Long Pashan's passionate and sincere gaze. He couldn't help but roar in his heart. This old man Long was stealing his disciple. He was clearly taking advantage of the situation and openly robbing. How despicable! At the same time, Long Pashan also noticed Sui's gaze and laughed. "Master is nothing, but your disciple is not bad. I don't want to waste him." Immediately, all the elders behind him, Lu Guanjiang of the Taihang continent, Zhu Jianjun of the Immortal Sword continent, Wu Zhouzi of the Divine Tiger continent, Nie Shuangzhu of the Taichin continent, Ling Wuning of the central continent, and Lin Shuangping of the vast sea all gathered. Lin Shuangping's bright and beautiful face immediately smiled. Haotian, come to my place. The vast sea is fun. Oh right, Sui, come too. I'll wait for you at the vast sea. After saying that, she looked at Sui as if nothing had happened. Sui felt that Lin Shuangping wanted him to go to the vast sea by all means possible. He couldn't help but feel a little strange. Wu Zhouzi, on the other hand, was shorter in stature. He wore an extremely loose robe from head to toe like a boat. Wu Zhouzi opened his small eyes and jumped up and down. The Divine Tiger continent is not bad. Haotian, I'll take you to the White Tiger sect for a tour. The Taichin continent is also very good. It's also vast and rich in resources. You can have anything you want. If you ask me, why go to the Divine Tiger continent? Come to the Taichin continent. No, still. Go to my Taihang continent. Old man Huang Fu of the Taixing sect has a good relationship with me. I'll introduce you to him. Even the top factions will give me some face. Fine. You're all good. I won't say anything. Wu Zhouzi's stubborn temper flared up. He stomped his foot and twisted his neck, no longer speaking. Martial uncles, I. Chapter 1708. Jun Haotian, who had always been dull, seemed to have untied the knot in his heart. In the face of the invitations from the elders of Yutian Palace, he was at a loss for a moment, but he still smiled and felt extremely warm in his heart. Sui laughed and handed the pass that Gue had just given him to Jun Haotian. They don't understand you. In fact, you still want to stay in Yutian Palace, right? Sui said with a smile. Jun Haotian suddenly raised his head and looked at the imperial pass in his hand that was emitting a divine aura. His mind was shaken, and his sword-like eyebrows furrowed as he kept shaking his head. This was a certificate that allowed him to choose any elixir or magic weapon in Yutian Palace. The most important thing was that he could get the careful guidance of the highest elder with this thing. It was very possible for him to reach the peak of Yutian Palace in the future. Sui, this. I can't accept it. This belongs to you. Jun Haotian's eyes flashed with a trace of urgency. He couldn't accept it no matter what. The elders that were talking animatedly just now instantly stopped their discussions and disputes, and their eyes revealed surprise as they stared fixedly at Sui. Sui smiled and put the pass into Jun Haotian's arms with a calm expression. His bright and dark eyes were full of seriousness. You need this pass more than I do. This is the key to let you find your way again. Use it to give you a new lease of life. Think about what you want to do. And I have them. That's enough. Sui. Tian Wu's eyes were wet again, and he wiped them hard. He was embarrassed for crying for the second time today. Sui looked at Ah Chu and Li Shiran, who were still rejoicing, completely forgetting about the thrilling experience under the Broken Sword Sea. Today's 4 first places are all thanks to them. Sui's eyes were clear and bright, and he laughed heartily. In an instant, his eyes were burning and full of determination. He missed the Bawang sect a little more. The Green Emperor, the Yinyang brothers, his elder brother, and his sister-in-law suddenly came to his mind. In Sui's heart, people were always the first. If there was no direction and no support, people would always be just a bag of skin. The Overlord sect, this was the true purpose of the establishment. Hearing this, Jun Haotian's face showed a touch of shame. His eyes fluctuated, and his admiration for Sui increased. Then, he cupped his hands and said in a trembling voice, Thank you, Sui. You are my Jun Haotian's friend, brother. After listening to the conversation between the two, the elders praised Sui again and again. Even the usually frivolous Long Pashan felt a chill run down his spine and withdrew his casual gaze. Is this boy really only 17 or 18 years old? This level of maturity is a little terrifying. He is always unexpected. One day, he will exceed everyone's expectations. Ling Wuning was a little shocked, and his heart was surging slightly. Lin Shuangping's bright eyes seemed to be filled with endless splendor and expectation. She sighed and said, "Hasn't he exceeded all of our expectations now?" At this time, the entire venue of the front peak of Zhongzhen was extremely noisy. On the high platform, Duanmu Xiaoman had already stood up. Her jade-like body and fragrant skin made her look like an extremely perfect fairy, vast and immortal. Her clothes that were like silk and satin fluttered in the wind, and her flawless charm revealed a peerless beauty that was otherworldly. Her gaze was pure and clear like snow that carried frost, and it was breathtaking and caused others to be fearful and not dare have the slightest intention of disrespecting her. At this moment, Duanmu Xiaoman released an amazing spiritual pressure, which instantly swept the entire venue. A faint voice resounded through the sky and directly into Su Yi's ears. "Su Yi, are you done?" Su Yi turned around. Under everyone's surprised gaze, Duanmu Xiaoman seemed to be ready to leave, and before she left, she called out to Su Yi. Okay. After saying that, Su Yi also felt that he shouldn't have said that. Under the boundless pressure, her cold and beautiful face was like a fairy descending to the mortal world. In front of her, Su Yi suddenly felt extremely small. That extreme power couldn't be calmed down for a long time, and his heart was fluctuating violently. Being called by such a holy and intelligent woman, Su Yi felt as if he was falling into the clouds, ethereal and unreal. He unconsciously followed and slowly walked toward Duanmu Xiaoman. "Palace Lord, are you calling Su Yi to leave?" Long Pashan was a little surprised, but he was even more surprised in his heart. Even Ling Yuepik's side was silent for a moment. Everyone was extremely shocked as they watched Su Yi slowly walk toward Duanmu Xiaoman. "Father!" Han Yuro's beautiful eyebrows suddenly furrowed, and her pair of watery eyes surged with boundless anger. Just now, Duanmu Xiaoman's excessive concern for Su Yi made Han Yuro feel a little uncomfortable, so she whispered to Han Wulong. Han Wulong also began to feel anxious. His tall and burly body pushed through the crowd and took a step forward. The aura of the golden dragon instantly surged around his body, and a mighty aura blasted forward like a thunderstorm. Boom! Stop! After coming back to his senses, Su Yi was a little confused. He blankly looked at Han Wulong, who called out to him and said, "Sect Lord Han? What is it?" "Palace Lord Duanmu, do you remember what you promised me under the Sea of Broken Swords?" Under the Sea of Broken Swords, Han Wulong went to rescue Duanmu Xiaoman and Su Yi. He said that he would let Su Yi and Han Wulong return to the Infinite Sect when the time came. After returning to the Heavenly Drive River, Han Wulong ran to the back mountain again and again, but he couldn't see Su Yi. This time, the Heavenly Drive Soul competition was finally over. No matter what, he had to take Su Yi away today. "Did I promise you?" Duanmu Xiaoman slightly tilted her head. Her eyes were arrogant, and in an instant, a soul bolt shot out. Deng deng deng! Han Wulong quickly retreated. A wave of blood rushed up his head, and his resolute face turned a little pale. With a whoosh, his golden dragon aura was annihilated like a stone sinking into the sea. "Sect Lord!" A few experts from the Infinite Sect rushed forward. Their eyes were sharp and they stared straight ahead. Duanmu Xiaoman continued to walk forward slowly. She still didn't put the Infinite Sect in her eyes. "Su Yi, do you want to follow me or him? Think carefully." Of course, Su Yi knew this sentence. There were still many things between him and Duanmu Xiaoman that he had yet to clear up. There were still many things to settle in the Heavenly Drive Palace. Seeing that the situation was about to change again, Su Yi's mind raced. He activated the Heavenly Origin Demon Soul in his body and asked Sect Master Han, What is the matter that requires me to go to the immeasurable sect? Han Wulong stopped him with his hand and said in a low voice, "It's about the commander." Commander? Could it be the divine dragon commander? Sui was shocked. His thoughts were running wild. He was the only one who knew about the golden dragon. Could Han Wulong be one of the 8 people who opened the secret realm? However, before he could settle the matter with Duanmu Xiaoman, a fire attribute whirlpool rose from under his feet. Sui flew over like a phantom. After thinking for a while, Sui frowned and let out a long breath. Sect Lord Han, are you talking about this thing? Chapter 1709. Sui took out the dragon scale jade token given to him by the 5-clawed golden dragon in the golden dragon secret realm. It was just a corner, but it emitted an indescribable dragon's might that could shake a person's soul. Han Wulong instantly blocked Suyi's hand when he saw the surging ancient aura. His pupils constricted as he said, "Lord Commander." Han Wulong was about to kneel, but Sui quickly helped him up. Everyone present was shocked once again. Even Duanmu Xiaoman and the elders of the Heavenly Command Palace were at a loss of what to do. The Immeasurable Sect's sect master, Han Wulong, one of the top forces in the Cloud region, the Immeasurable Sect, and the sect master of the 6 continents, 3 continents and 1 sea, actually knelt before a 17 or 18-year-old lad. This is simply too shocking. Just what is Suyi's background? It seems like Han Wulong cares a lot about Sui. He has repeatedly contradicted our palace master for Sui. From the looks of it, Han Wulong seems to want to kneel before Sui. Nie Shuangjue, Long Pashan, Lin Shuangping, and the rest chattered incessantly. Their eyes were filled with curiosity, and their hearts were filled with endless thoughts about Sui. There are too many people here. Sect Master Han, can you wait until I go to the Immeasurable Sect before talking? Sui whispered. We can't delay any longer, Long Ku. The Heavenly Wind ranking tournament is about to begin, we can't make it in time. Han Wulong was so anxious that his forehead was covered in sweat. Suyi's heart trembled slightly. The Heavenly Wind ranking tournament was indeed only a few days away. If he went to the Immeasurable Sect, there was no time at all. Moreover, from Han Wulong's attitude, it seemed like there was indeed an urgent matter. How about this, after the Immeasurable Sect ends, we will meet in the Nether region. Before the Heavenly Wind ranking tournament, I will discuss it with you properly. Alright then, Lord Commander. Han Wulong's broad body was at least twice the size of Sui as he spoke to Sui. Don't reveal my identity for now. Just treat me as Sui. Sui felt a little embarrassed when Han Wulong called him that. Subsequently, Han Wulong took out a golden square jade stone and handed it to Sui. It had a profound aura and one could sense that it was rich in space laws of the space. Han Wulong's face twitched. He knew that he had misspoken. Then, he looked ashamed. That's it then. Sect Master Han, we'll return to Yuzhou in the future. Han Wulong cupped his hands in embarrassment. He was already extremely excited. Obtaining the answer in his heart was enough to make Han Wulong extremely happy. The rest was left to Guyu. Vice Palace 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 Palace. Take good care of the Immeasurable Sect. After saying those words, Duanmu had already disappeared without a trace. Only a string of blue ice crystals floated in the depths of the void, and an endless orchid fragrance lingered in the air. What? Vice Palace Palace Master? Long Pashan's eyes fell to the ground. In the distance, Gyue was still immersed in the joy of winning first place. Duanmu Xiaoman's resignation shocked him. His weathered face was filled with shock. Congratulations, Elder Gyue, Sui said. Master, congratulations on becoming the Vice Palace Palace Master. Tianwu, Achu, and the others quickly knelt down and bowed deeply to Gyue. Good boy, this Gyue is above me. From now on. Haha, who asked Lingyu Peak to take the first place? You should go and fight for it too. Luo Wuya chuckled. Then, his eyes lit up and filled with joy. He walked up to Gyue and presented his gift. Subordinate Luo Wuya of the Immeasurable Sect greets the new Vice Palace Master of the Immeasurable Sect. Then, everyone present knelt down and bowed to Gyue. Gyue looked in the direction of Duanmu Xiaoman, his eyes filled with tears of excitement. Gyue thanks the Palace Master. Then, Sui saw that everyone was kneeling down. He simply ignited the fire attribute under his feet and chased after Duanmu Xiaoman like a ball of fire. Gyue said loudly, "Rise." After getting up, Luo Wuya and the others kept congratulating Gyue. The entire Lingyu Peak was in high spirits because of this good news. Within a day, he had washed away the humiliation, won first place in 4 competitions, and even became the Palace Master of the Immeasurable Sect. Sui and Duanmu Xiaoman had already walked far away. Luo Wuya stood up and said in a low voice, his eyes flashing. One Palace Master Duanmu, one Han Wulong. Both of them care a lot about Sui. Isn't that so? After so many years, only Sui can come and go as he pleases. Sai, let's go. Palace Master Gu, I'll return to my Azure Sea sect first. Please take care of the Azure Sea sect in the future, okay? Lin Shuangping said faintly. Her delicate and seductive voice echoed throughout the entire place, but her eyes were still fixed on the fire mark that was already far away. While everyone was still in a daze, Han Wulong also shouted, "Immeasurable Sect, return to the sect!" Immediately, the auras of all the boundless sect's elites spread out. Overflowing gales instantly stirred up a small tornado in the vital chi, which was extremely shocking. Spatial ripples spread out in the air. Instantly, it was as if a heavy rock had been thrown into the air, extremely violent. "Father! Where's Sui?" Han Yuro was still shouting from below. She looked very anxious. Li Shiran, Ah Chu, and the others were also confused. "Sui has something important to do. Don't delay. Rower, do you want to return to the sect with father?" Han Wulong stood in the void, returning to his usual fierce self. "No. I'm not going back." Han Yuro pouted. Han Wulong naturally knew what Han Yuro was thinking. Sui was still here. Han Yuro, who had just fallen in love, was not going to go anywhere. However, it was a critical moment now. The Divine Dragon Commander had been found. It was time to move on to the next step of the plan. Han Wulong frowned slightly. His eyes were like a divine pool as he said in a deep voice, "All right. I haven't returned to the Immeasurable Sect for a long time. There are still many things to do. If you want to see Sui, go to Yuzhou to find father." As soon as he finished speaking, Han Wulong's metal attribute surged wildly, causing the entire sky to tremble. Han Wulong and a group of experts rushed in the direction of the Immeasurable Sect as fast as lightning. A powerful gust of wind suddenly swept out. In an instant, no one was there. Vitality gushed out. Only the boundless energy of heaven and earth was left to gather and envelop the surrounding space. Han Yuro was a little dazed. What was wrong with father today? Father, who had always doted on her, actually abandoned her and left first? Han Yuro was suddenly puzzled. She stood there in a daze. Soon, several core figures left. The people in Zhongzhen Square left after congratulating Gyue. In the end, Han Yuro pursed her red lips and followed Gyue back to Lingyu Peak. Jun Haotian, who had always been reserved, could not resist Tian Ho's enthusiasm. He also followed them back to Lingyu Peak. This series of fluctuations made Gyue happy for the entire night. The entire Lingyu Peak was in a state of extreme excitement. Whether it was Li Shiran or Han Yuro who asked Gyue about Sui, Gyue replied with a smile, "It's fine. He has something to do at the back of the peak." Chapter 17:10. After the earthquake, there were very few people around. This was the first time Sue had a good look at the back of the mountain. It was covered in lush greenery. It had a completely different feeling compared to the front of the mountain. The spiritual chi here was abundant, and the clouds were rosy. It really did feel like a fairyland. There were no traces of the huge fire caused by the mountain guarding array. It was as if the fire had just started. Among the shadows, spiritual beasts flew in twos and threes. The cries of the birds and the cries of the beasts set off the tranquility of the mountain. Raising his head, he could even see a few flying barbaric demonic beasts climbing on the peak, looking at the figures below. This makes me want to return to the Bawang sect, Sui muttered to himself. Such a scene was incomparably beautiful. With the mist rising from the mountain and the miasma in the forest, the entire back of the mountain was like a toad's palace. The Duanmu Shaoman was like a fairy who had guarded the mountain alone for 1,000 years. Without rushing, Sui followed the Duanmu Shaman's footsteps and walked forward. Along the way, she left behind a fragrant wind that seeped into one's heart. His eyes were filled with the Duanmu Shaman's beautiful figure. Her graceful figure swayed in front of Sui as she walked slowly and gracefully. The faintly discernible gauze dress directly revealed a pair of long legs. It was extremely beautiful. Sui had lived 2 lives, but he felt as if he was looking at a fairy. Lu Ruashi had such a temperament, but she was not a fairy. That lass, in the entire world, probably only Sui knew how stubborn and heartless she was. Thinking about Lu Ruashi, Sui could not help but shake his head and click his tongue. In the end, Sui still kept the letter that wanted to kill him. I wonder if that lass will participate in the Tianfeng ranking tournament? At this moment, the faces of a few ladies appeared in Sui's mind. Yun Qing was like an elf in the forest, while Ling Qianxue had the wildness and gentleness unique to the demon race. The only one who was slightly similar was Shi Susu of Blue Cloud Hall. However, Shi Susu only had an elegant temperament and didn't want to get involved with the secular world. Duanmu Shaoman, who was walking at the front, was very attractive. It's hard to imagine that I'm actually on top of her? Sui's heart trembled slightly. However, he had already returned with her. He didn't know if Duanmu would settle the score with him. Actually, Sui really wanted to tell Duanmu that he didn't mean it. However, he glanced at Duanmu, whose eyes were as cold as ice. Sui lowered his head and didn't feel like talking anymore. Just like that, Duanmu didn't say anything, and Sui didn't ask anything either. The two of them walked together, and after walking for a long distance, they finally saw an extremely tall pure jade palace. Below it, there were groups of relatively low houses. Compared to the palace, the houses had simple carvings, just like an ice palace. Just by looking from afar, Sui could feel the coldness of the heaven-driving shrine. He couldn't help but shiver. A sneeze caused Duanmu Shaoman to finally stop. "Have you seen enough?" Duanmu Yu asked. Sui instantly understood that Duanmu had seen everything. His face instantly burned, and he didn't know what to say. "Do I look good?" Duanmu turned around. Her tall nose matched her snow-white skin, and her pair of moon-like eyes were filled with arrogance and coldness. "Yes," Sui subconsciously replied. However, he immediately regretted it, feeling that he was too rash. The atmosphere suddenly froze, and Duanmu Shaoman once again opened her red lips. "You are the first person who dares to talk back to me in front of everyone." Sui guessed that Duanmu was indeed here to denounce him. He coughed and said, That Jun Haotian is also quite outstanding." Sui, who was incomparably flustered, felt for the first time that he, who had lived 2 lives, was nothing in front of this fairy-like Duanmu Shaoman. "However, you still came back with me in the end. That's pretty good." Sui nodded and smiled awkwardly. However, he was cursing in his heart. "This daddy has been wise all my life and has killed ruthlessly. Just now, I was in the limelight in front of everyone, and now I'm back with a woman like you. You tell me to leave and I leave. Do you think I don't have any face? That's pretty good. Pretty good my ass. Actually, Sue was extremely regretful in his heart. Why did he come back with Duanmu? How could he be so shameless? Right at this moment, Duanmu Xiaoman's pure white robes fluttered, as if she was dancing. In the next second, she was directly in front of Sue. The tips of their noses were less than a millimeter apart. Coming back with me, do you feel wronged? Duanmu Xiaoman's moon-like eyes seemed to see through Sue. Her soft voice was like 100 claws scratching at one's heart, so charming that it made one's nose bleed wildly. This has nothing to do with being wronged, okay? This is a man's dignity. Sue really wanted to say this in his heart. However, looking at Duanmu Xiaoman's unblinking eyes, Sue still chose not to say anything. Their eyes met, and a faintly discernible body fragrance lingered around Sue's body, causing Sue to have wild thoughts. However, he quickly erased these thoughts from his mind. Duanmu Xiaoman just stared at Sue without moving. Sue immediately felt that this woman was a little terrifying. He swallowed a mouthful of saliva, and for the first time, he felt his heart beating wildly. Whoosh! Sue took a deep breath in his heart. Fire attribute Yuan Qi rose, and his figure rapidly retreated. He said, Palace Master Duanmu, what exactly do you want? Duanmu Xiaoman saw that Sue was somewhat enlightened. Her expression gradually became gentle, and her eyes fluctuated. In the blink of an eye, she said coldly, Are you feeling better? Much better. Just now, the 9 transformation god refining pill helped me a lot. I can already recover on my own. Immediately, Sue said to Duanmu Xiaoman, Thank you for the pill you asked the Su family to send over. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to make it in time for the Heaven Riding Soul competition. At this moment, although Su Yi's meridians were still damaged, with the support of the Origin Supreme technique and the spiritual liquid, he believed that he would be able to fully recover in less than 3 days. Duanmu Xiaoman ignored Su Yi's gratitude and said in a low voice, Humph, so you are also so desperate for others. What? Su Yi did not understand. In the blink of an eye, Duanmu Xiaoman's attitude became extremely cold again. She put away her attitude and spoke like a stranger. All right, you are indeed a freak. Go over there and see your family first. After that, come and find me at the Command Divine Palace. After saying that, a whirlpool rose from the bottom of Duanmu Xiaoman's feet. A vast and mighty pressure swept out. In an instant, a whirlpool rose in the forest. When he looked up again, Duanmu Xiaoman was already gone. Looking at the Command Divine Palace in the distance, Su Yi felt a little guilty. Duanmu Xiaoman had always been unpredictable. Just now, she changed her attitude in an instant. Su Yi was still a little uncertain in his heart. Forget it, let's go and see Grandpa first. Then, Su Yi came to the low-rise house. As soon as he walked into the courtyard, he could hear the clamor of voices. Su Yi, you are back. Su Yi is back. Chapter 17:11. Su Yi. Young master is back. The courtyard was immediately filled with noise like a tidal wave. The maids and servants immediately stopped what they were doing and looked at Su Yi with surprise and joy. It felt like a lifetime ago. Su Yi had dreamt of this scene in countless nights and dreams, but he never thought that he would meet the Su family in Yutian Palace. When Su Yi entered the courtyard, he found that the Su family was neat and tidy. Everyone was in good spirit. It was as if he had returned to the Su family in Barbarian City. A warm feeling welled up in his eyes. Hearing the familiar voice and looking at the familiar figure, Su Yi's breathing quickened uncontrollably. Family would always be Su Yi's biggest weakness. After all, he had been through so many bloody tragedies. Su Yi was very glad that he made the decision to move the Su family with Yutian Palace. At this moment, when the group of people saw Su Yi's appearance, they were extremely shocked at first. Then, they exploded into earth-shattering shouts and quickly surrounded Su Yi. Including Xiaolan, who was slapped by him, and the group of servants who saw Su Yi, they were so excited that they were speechless. Su Yi was also very happy. Looking at these familiar people who appeared by his side again, Su Yi asked, "Are you all well?" "Good, very good. This place is self-sufficient. Also, Immortal Sister often brings us some pills. My body is stronger than the other. The environment here is very good. The air is also good. Master and Old Master like it very much." The young maid looked at Su Yi with eyes full of golden light. Su Yi, who was like a god, planted the seed of worship in the hearts of countless Su family members. Ever since Su Yi's battle in Barbarian City, Su Yi protected the entire Su family. So the title of that brat, the Scourge of Barbarian City, no longer existed. Savior, Guardian God was Su Yi's code name in the Su family. The young maids and attendants in front of him were all talking at once. There were also many old and weak women, children who were attracted out. When they saw Su Yi, they were so excited that tears flowed out. All the Su family disciples wanted to kneel down when they saw Su Yi, but Su Yi quickly helped them up. At this time, Su Yi seemed to see a familiar woman's figure in the crowd. She was holding a broom in her hand. Su Yi looked up. It was Su Jiao, who was kicked to the ground by him back then. Su Yi smiled bitterly and thought, "I didn't expect that she would also follow me to Yutian Palace. And I didn't expect her to be the first one. Forget it, the past is the past. As long as I turn over a new leaf, family is better than others." The Su family went through so many twists and turns, and she was still able to stay by the side of the Su family. This Su Jiao wasn't as annoying in Su Yi's heart as back then. Today, when Su Jiao saw Su Yi again, she didn't have the slightest bit of fierceness and shrewdness. Her eyes flickered, and there was some fear in her shock. Perhaps the lesson Su Yi taught her back then was too deep. When their eyes met, there was actually some evasion. Everyone's lively mood stopped, and their eyes were wide open. Would Su Yi still be calculative with Su Jiao about the incident back then? Su Yi walked towards Su Jiao. Just the Origin Emperor Realm aura on his body directly shook Su Jiao until she retreated repeatedly. As if she was somewhat limp, her eyes were filled with shock as she looked at Su Yi helplessly. Su Yi. Everyone in the surroundings was instantly dumbfounded and were somewhat at a loss. They saw Su Yi solemnly bowing to Su Jiao and said gently, "Aunt, long time no see." In Su Yi's heart, he didn't care about these trivial matters of the past since long ago, and he only wished for the Su clan to be safe and sound. Su Jiao seemed to have not expected this when she saw this, and her red lips slightly trembled as her nose twitched, and her entire body relaxed as she replied, "Sigh." Instantly, everyone's hearts relaxed. The current Su Yi couldn't be compared to the past, and his mood rose once more. "Where's uncle and grandfather?" "I'm here." A broad figure with an elegant bearing and refined appearance swiftly walked out from behind the crowd. He was extraordinary, and he was still conspicuous in the crowd, but compared to before, he seemed to have aged a bit. It was precisely Su Yi's uncle, the substitute patriarch of the entire Su clan, Su Jingting. Looking at Su Yi, Su Jingting's hands tightly grabbed onto Su Yi's arm, and he was moved to the point of being speechless. The servants, women, and children by his side were secretly wiping away their tears. At this moment, they were extremely happy to see Su Yi again. More than a year had passed since they parted in Barbarian City. Looking at the white hair on Su Jingting's temples, Su Yi couldn't help but feel heartache, and he choked with sobs. "Have you been well these days?" "Good. Very good. Su Yi, it's all thanks to you for bringing us to Yutian Palace. After you left, Sacred Mountain came a few more times." Su Jiao sobbed continuously, and her entire body trembled as she said, Many experts came to Barbarian City, and they all said they wanted to search Barbarian City, and they even said they wanted to track you down. Are they trying to exterminate my Su clan? Su Yi's eyes trembled. When he was in Chaos Region, Sacred Mountain actually openly came to a tiny barbarian city. What kind of bullshit first-rate sect is this, doing such rotten things all day long? When Sacred Mountain was mentioned, Su Yi's blood and anger instantly started to surge, and he clenched his teeth tightly. Sure enough, Sacred Mountain did a lot of tricks after that. Sacred Mountain. Extreme anger started to linger in his heart, surging violently like a volcano eruption, and the energy emitted from his body instantly made the entire courtyard extremely terrifying. Looking at his nephew who had already matured too much, Su Jingting couldn't help but be moved in his heart, and he glared at Su Jiao who spoke. This child is already an untouchable existence in my Su clan. Like father, like son. The Su clan has hope. Following Su Jiao's words, Su Jingting broke the silence and said with a smile. It's also very good here, Elder Gue and Palace Master Duanmu treat us very well, you can rest assured. Subsequently, Su Jingting looked at Su Jiao, and his eyes moved slightly. Su Jiao, what are you still in a daze for? Quickly go invite old master. Is back, hurry up and invite him. Su Jingting gave Su Jiao a look, meaning to tell her not to speak anymore. Sacred Mountain's matters weren't something a woman like her could participate in. If new problems arose and Su Yi and Sacred Mountain had a grudge, it was absolutely not good. You guys chat. Su Jiao wasn't a stupid person, and she immediately wiped away her tears and said with a smile. Su Jingting pulled Su Yi to sit at the side and introduced everything here to Su Yi. At this time, everyone had already left. Right, Palace Master Duanmu asked us to deliver medicine to the Earth Vein, so it was for you? Su Jingting said with a smile. Sizing up Su Yi, Su Jingting's heart was filled with warmth and excitement, and he was in high spirits as he talked about everything that happened in Jutian Palace with delight. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.